Yemo estimated that the price for his stall wasn't cheap. By the looks of it, either Lin Hueha or someone else paid for him. However, Yemo didn't necessarily have to give money because the cost for that pill was more than 10,000. Yemo came relatively early, but just when he sat down in front of his stall, people progressively came in. The very spacious exhibition center immediately became very populous. The people who came here all seemed to have some social status. Although it was loud, it wasn't boisterous. Most of the people headed straight for where they were interested, looking for what they wanted and asking for the price. However, Yemo found that even the cheapest things here were a few $1,000s. Better things were easily in the 10,000s and hundreds of thousands, even million. Looking at these people spend money so easily, Yemo couldn't help but sigh that a part of the people in this world were very rich. Thinking back before, he was very happy that one charm could sell for $10,000, but now, Yemo found that a very polished-looking charm that had no use was sold for $18,800. He scanned with his spirit sense and found that the best sellers here were some protective amulets or artifacts that gave good fortune or health. Those stalls that had ancient words had especially good business. Yemo took notice of their things. The cheapest one was around $200,000 and was non-negotiable. Although these stalls had good business, other stalls didn't dare to copy them. Otherwise, using those ancient characters would make their business better too. However, Yemo found that the real magic artifacts here weren't much. There were rarely any which emitted spirit chi. Even those stalls with ancient characters didn't have much. There was rarely one or two, but the price was absurd. However, just because they didn't emit spirit chi, it didn't mean they were useless. Yemo had great expertise in this. He scanned with his spirit sense and knew there were some real magic artifacts. However, although they look exquisite, their functions really couldn't be praised. It could be said that not one could be even 1% effective as his. However, what made Yemo disappointed was that although his things were the best and didn't intend to sell for much, his stall was still the least visited. Although there were a lot of people, they rarely came to his stall. Even if they did, they didn't even bother to ask for the price. This business was hard, Yemo sighed to himself. It seemed that it was due to his small stall and no banner. If he couldn't sell one, then he wouldn't be able to get back a single dollar of the 100K he invested. Suddenly, Yemo saw someone familiar. It was the fashionable girl he saw on the plane. However, she had a young man in his 20s to 30s by her side. Yemo didn't expect her to be interested in magical artifacts. When Yemo looked at her, she just happened to turn around and see Yemo. This was a good-looking woman, but Yemo didn't like her just by looking at her eyes. It wasn't that her eyes weren't pretty, they were just too snobbish. Her lips were also a bit thin, but her sunflower seed-shaped face was quite nice. However, paired with her eyes, it made Yemo feel repulsed. She obviously saw that Yemo had a stall and walked over immediately. Originally, she thought Yemo was looking for her in the airport, but didn't expect to lose her face. This broke her good self-esteem, making her very unhappy. Didn't think you sold these things. How much is this necklace? Get one for me. I'll think of it as charity. This woman had a disdainful look, meaning that she was doing charity by buying something since Yemo's stall was so cold. 100,000. Yemo didn't even bother to raise his head. The woman's expression made him feel disgusted. It was as though he was a beggar. Originally, Yemo planned to sell this necklace for $50K, 80K, but because he was unhappy, he just said $100,000. And he saw that those ancient martial arts stalls sold things for $100K, 200K at least. But compared to his necklace, they were miles away. What? This woman exclaimed. But she immediately realized she lost her rich lady attitude and sneered. Do you think you're an ancient stall? A necklace that is worth only a few $100s becomes $100,000. DD, you want to extort money from me just because I took pity in you. No wonder you don't have business. Keep trying to sell that. And yen, why waste your time with these sort of people? If you want a necklace, we'll go look for one at an ancient stall. I'll pick one for you for your birthday next month. The man at her side said quickly. This woman frowned and looked at Yemo's necklace, realizing that she actually quite liked this style. That necklace looked quite pleasant. But this guy was too annoying. I'll give you 10K, you're earning big. I'll have one of the necklace. From in Yan's eyes, she was giving Emo a lot by buying a necklace that wasn't worth more than $1,000 for $10,000. Originally, she adopted a pitiful attitude, but because she saw how pretty it was, she wanted to buy one, but didn't think this shabby-looking stall owner dared to extort her. Not selling. Emo didn't even want to talk to this woman anymore. Humph. I'm giving you money. Are you selling or not? This woman was quite annoyed. In her eyes, Emo was too greedy. Emo plainly said, "Do you want to buy with force? The thing is mine, I can sell it for however much I want. I didn't force you to buy. Move aside. Don't block my business." "Okay. I'll see how much you can sell today. Don't come begging for me to buy it in the end. 100K. I'll see how many you can sell." This fashionable lady didn't heed to the persuasion of the man beside her and stood by the side wanting to see if Emo could really sell it. Emo sneered. $100K is the price just then. Now it's $200,000. He was extremely unhappy with this woman. It was his business, what did she have to do with it? He was the one who decided whether or not he sold it. "You?" And Yen was infuriated by Emo's words. In her eyes, Emo was doing it for her. $100,000 wasn't much for her. But she just wasn't happy. Although she liked this necklace, she didn't want to spend an extra $90,000 for no reason. This necklace is so pretty. How much is it?" A middle-aged man brought two girls that were younger than 20 past Emo's stall, and one of the girls suddenly discovered Emo's necklace and stopped immediately in exclamation. This middle-aged man also stopped and said, "You've been around once and hardly said anything was beautiful. If you like it, Dad will buy one each for you too." Emo looked at these two girls. They looked very alike and refreshing, so perhaps they were twins. But hearing the man's tone, he seemed to be very rich. He meant that as long as his daughters liked it, he would buy it, but his daughters didn't find anything they liked after looking around for a while. "Dad, I want one too. There are two exactly, one each for me and Sis." "This necklace is really pretty," another girl said quickly. Emo was speechless. The magic artifacts he made were for protection and health, but they attracted people due to their looks. "Boss, how much is one?" the middle-aged man asked immediately. "Humph. He wants to sell high few $100 worth thing for $200,000. And Yen, who hadn't walked away, immediately said. Emo coldly looked at Yen. This woman was too annoying. If she didn't buy, she can piss off, but she was still being nosy here. "What are you looking at? Can't I tell the truth to others?" And Yen looked at Emo's glare and immediately yelled out in discomfort. Emo didn't want to deal with her. He only sold his things to those who realized its worth. However, the middle-aged man just smiled and didn't seem to change his will due to Yan's words. He just looked at Emo and asked, "May I ask, is this $200,000? Seeing that the middle-aged man still asking this question even after hearing Yan's words, he immediately knew this middle-aged man had his own will and was very rich, or he didn't care about this money for his daughter's birthday. Indeed, $200,000. Emo didn't think it was expensive to sell one necklace for $200,000. His necklace was worth this. Those that were worse than his could sell for more than this. "Okay, I'll have two. This necklace is very pretty indeed," this middle-aged man immediately said. Emo heard the middle-aged man and hurried to say, "I'm not selling this necklace for $200,000 for its looks. It has two functions. One is for a lifetime, and that is to promote health. Those who wear this would rarely get sick. Another function is defensive. It has 3 charges. After using it up, this necklace would be gone." Humph. Seeing that Emo was still bluffing, and Yen felt more annoyed, but she couldn't do anything. This middle-aged man obviously didn't care about Emo's words. In his opinion, if Emo's necklace really had such powers, he wouldn't be selling it on such a small stall. "Dad, you should buy one too. It has defensive powers. We can have one each," one girl immediately said. The middle-aged man obviously loved his daughters, and hearing their words, he immediately said, "Okay, one of each of them. Boss, is there another one of these?" "Yes." Emo took out a third necklace and put it on the table. Seeing Yemo take out a third one, there was more contempt in Yan's eyes. If its functions were really as Yemo said so, then this necklace should be very precious, but he was able to take out this many at once. Thus, it could be seen that this was probably mass-produced from a small factory. If real magic artifacts could be made so easily, then magic artifacts would be sold cheap and not worth money. Although she wasn't too familiar with the business, she still understood that magic artifacts were rare. Even here at Lauda Street, there weren't a few real ones. Everyone knew this, but there was still a lot of people who bought them. There was no other reason but that they want to meet a real one. Although that middle-aged man knew Yemo's items were fake, he was disappointed after seeing Yemo take out so much. However, that disappointment went away quickly. He knew it was fake and only bought it because his daughters liked them. "Boss, I want 3. Help me package it, please." This middle-aged man was straightforward. "Okay. 3 is $600,000, but I'll give you a discount, $500,000. Yemo casually deducted $100,000. Seeing Yemo deduct $100,000, this middle-aged man found himself bemused. In his eyes, people like Yemo were here to scam people. The more he did the better. How could he just take off $100,000? Of course, $100,000 wasn't much for him, but looking at Yemo's clothing, $100,000 should be a big number. But soon, he understood that Yemo really took off $100,000. This wasn't 100 or 2, it was a whole $100,000. However, Yemo didn't feel it was anything. He had a good impression of the middle-aged man. Although $100,000 wasn't little, he felt that money wasn't the most important thing. If he wanted money, he could think of ways at any time. Moreover, his online clinic was about to start soon. Would he worry about not having money to earn? The middle-aged man's look obviously showed that he thought the necklace was fake, but he still bought 3 without bargaining the price. This made Yemo approve of him greatly. No matter how much money he had, it was still his money, and being able to spend it meant that he loved his daughters a lot. Plus, he never intended to sell the 3 necklace for $600,000. $200,000 and he would be happy. Now that he sold them for $500,000, he was very satisfied. "Help me package it and tell me your card number. We'll go to the tax district together. I'll give you the money now," this middle-aged man said with satisfaction. Yemo just realized now that he didn't have packaging nor a card number and couldn't help but to say, "I don't have a package, and it doesn't matter if there's no packaging. I'll wear it now." Then, one of the girls already put the necklace on and stuffed it inside her clothes. "This necklace feels really comfortable." The girl immediately felt a spirit-cleansing sensation. The middle-aged man smiled and didn't talk. He thought that his daughter wanted to tell him that the money was spent wisely to make him feel better. "Okay, but don't tell me you don't have a card number too?" Looking at Yemo's troubled face, the middle-aged man joked. Yemo helplessly said, "I really don't have a card number." He was indeed a povo, and Yen originally felt jealous hearing the girl say the necklace was comfortable. After all, she liked the necklace too. But now that she found out this person didn't even have a card, she wondered how the necklaces were made. Yemo only just realized that each stall had an individual for payments. Other than his stall, the cashier also had to give tax. It seemed that he was indeed a bit rushed. "This necklace is quite pretty. How much?" Just when the middle-aged man also didn't have a way, another person came to ask for Yemo's necklace. $200K. Yemo just sold it for $200,000. Obviously he can't give 2 prices. The person asking was a youth not much older than Yemo. There was also a lady beside him looking in her 50s. However, she didn't look too healthy. "Mom, this necklace is quite pretty. I'll buy one for you." This youth seemed to have a filial heart. The middle-aged woman also felt that the necklace was pretty and hesitated before saying, "It's quite pretty, but the price is too expensive." Although the youth didn't feel $200K was expensive, he seemed to be afraid of his mom reproaching him for wasting money. And someone else bought it just then, so it would be implausible to bargain. Looking at the porcelain bottle on Yemo's table, seeing it write all sorts of pills, he immediately came up with an idea and hurried to say, "How about you give me a bottle of pill as well?" The reason he wanted to buy the pill was to prove to his mother that he wasn't being scammed. In fact, he didn't plan to have the pill. For magic artifacts, he can adopt a tested-out attitude, but for these unknown pills, he definitely wouldn't believe it. EMO could only helplessly touch his nose and say, "This pill isn't a bottle of pill. There is only one in each bottle, and it's more expensive than the necklace. The production cost for these pills are indeed higher than the necklace. If he just gave it out like that, then he would be losing." Hearing Yemo's words, this youth was dazed. Buying a pill for him was like buying fake medicine, but it actually costed more than the necklace. That meant it was more than $200,000? And Yen felt more contemptuous towards Yemo. This person's heart was probably black. $200,000 for a necklace and an unknown pill sells for more than $200,000? She really wondered how the exhibition let a cheat like him in. Although she wanted to leave more than once, but she couldn't let go of that necklace. However, she was too embarrassed to drop her dignity to buy it. "You're saying that this pill costs more than $200,000? Although he was rich, the youth was still shocked that one pill costed $200,000. He came here knowing that the price wouldn't be cheap, but $200,000 was too horrible. What pill is this? Actually costing more than $200,000. An old man on the side heard and immediately came up to look at the porcelain bottles on Yemo's stall. Including the middle-aged man and his two daughters, there was more and more people coming to Yemo's stall. "This necklace is so pretty. I also want one. How much?" Another woman younger than 30 came here. Yemo couldn't help but to sigh that his necklace was really attractive to women. However, although this woman had a good body that could even be described as busty, her face really couldn't be praised. It wasn't to say that her face looked bad. Her face was not bad, but in fact, having this sense of mature woman. However, what made people not want to look at her again was that there were so many spots and they weren't those teenage acne. Although she wore shades, those spots couldn't be covered. One could imagine that if she didn't have those spots on her face, this would be a pretty lady. Everyone loved beauty, and although her face wasn't so good, she still liked the pretty necklace. Yemo smiled and said, "Actually, madam, I think you should buy this pill of mine more." Then, Yemo took out a bottle and said, "This is a beauty pill. Only one is enough to make your face smooth and shiny like jade. However, the price is a little more expensive than the necklace." "Really?" The woman immediately grabbed the bottle. Although she was dubious, that desperation already betrayed her thoughts. Yemo smiled once again. "Sister, I think that if you can afford a $200,000 necklace, then you shouldn't care about this $200,000 pill. Just think of it as buying yourself an opportunity. You can earn money, but you may not have this chance again. Of course, I won't force you to buy it, decide for yourself, but there is only this chance. I won't be coming here to sell pills again." Yemo suddenly realized that he was very persuasive. If he went to do business, perhaps he would really have potential. "Okay, I'll have one of your necklace card?" That youth who came with his mum saw that so many people were interested in Yemo's things and finally made up his mind and picked up a necklace. Before Yemo said anything, that woman said immediately, "Okay, I'll have your pill. You're right. Even if you're a cheat, I will still give myself a chance. As for the necklace, I'll also—" "Wait!" A voice suddenly interrupted this woman. An old man in his 70s walked over and bowed to Yemo before continuing saying, "Patron, may I look at your necklace?" Yemo turned around and looked at that woman and said, "Sister, do you want this? If you want it, it's yours. If not, I'm giving it to this monk." "Yes, of course I want it. I want the pill and the necklace too," the woman hurried and said. The old man hurried and said, "Female patron, may I have a look of first?" Hearing the old monk say this, the woman could only give it over. The old monk took it and looked. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened it, but his eyes were getting brighter and brighter. After a while, he said, "Female patron, is it possible for you to give it to me? I'll pay 300K. "What?" Not only this woman was shocked, but also the people around her. To be honest, up until now, everyone has been buying the necklace because it looked pretty. The people around wasn't short of that money. Did this old monk buy this necklace because it was pretty too? And Yen, who had been standing on the side, froze too. Someone actually wants to pay 300K for a necklace? But she immediately reacted and she contemptuously said, "You can just tell they are working together. Not professional at all." However, the youth beside her seriously said, "They aren't working together. I know that old monk. He is from that ancient stall. He seemed to be from Juyun Temple. This sort of people would never do such a thing. It seems that the necklace may really be magic artifact." "Ah!" And Yen exclaimed. She didn't expect the person to increase the price would be an old monk from an ancient stall. This was a clear sign that Yimo's items were real. "How about I buy one for you?" This youth knows that Yen really liked the necklace and wanted to please her. Seeing her expression, he said immediately, "Okay, I want one, but..." And Yen had been wanting one, but she just couldn't do it for the sake of her dignity. However, she didn't expect things to turn out like this. The product she thought to be fake actually became popular now. She immediately thought that this necklace was gone. Otherwise, why would the old monk fight over one with the woman? Emo didn't expect to find someone who knew his stuff. But he already sold his item to this woman and wouldn't sell it to the second person. Seeing the woman look over, Emo said immediately, "You came first, you pay." At this moment, everyone around understood that the old monk came from the ancient stall. Even he came to buy Yemo's item, so this meant that Yemo's items were real. At this moment, more and more people came to Yemo's stall. That middle-aged man also realized that he earned big, so he quickly came up to Yemo and said, "If you believe me, I'll give you check and I can help you do the tax." Yemo didn't care that much to begin with. It was good as long as he got the money, and he indeed didn't have a card. Hearing this middle-aged man say this, the woman and the youth also conformed. Yemo was by himself. He couldn't leave with these people. However, they all had their morals. When they left to do the tax, they didn't take the items away. The youth within Yen came up immediately and said to Yemo politely, "Friend, do you have any more of those necklaces? Can you sell one to me? Or we can order one, of course, the price is no problem." Yemo saw that the annoying woman didn't come up and felt a little better, but immediately replied, "Sorry, the necklace is gone and you can't order them. A master told me to sell it for him. It's gone after this 5. Hearing Yemo's words, not only the youth was disappointed but also Yen. She really regretted not buying one for 100K. However, more and more people were asking about it. The youth saw that Yemo had indeed ran out and could only set his eyes on the two who bought it just then. They had one each in their family. He wondered if they could sell one for her. Thinking about this, the youth said to the girl, "Hello, you bought 3 necklaces. Could you sell one to me? I can pay $100,000 extra." The girl immediately raised the corner of her mouth, saying annoyedly, "Do you think I'm someone who is missing your $100,000? The people around could tell that the girl indeed didn't need that $100,000. Yemo sighed to himself. It seemed that the brand power of ancient character was effective. He could sell 3 to the middle-aged man purely due to luck. However, the people who came later was due to the old monk and his brand. At this moment, the old monk was still investigating the pills inside Yemo's bottle. He kept sniffing and even asked if Yemo could take it out for him to see. Of course, Yemo wouldn't mind. The old monk helped him advertise. Although he pretty much sold his necklace, he was still grateful towards the old monk. The middle-aged man and the woman as well as the youth had all come. However, the middle-aged man had a 2 million check for Yemo and said, "The other 2 have given me the money, and I helped you get a check. I've paid the tax for you already too." Yemo had an even better impression of the middle-aged man. He was probably afraid that Yemo would be tricked and took the money and helped Yemo get a check. It could be seen that he was a person of morality, otherwise he wouldn't be doing this. Yemo took the check and said, "Thank you, however, I don't have that much money." The middle-aged man smiled and waved. "I know. I still want to buy a few bottles of your pill. See how much pills I can buy with the rest of the money and just give me a few bottles." Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the old monk said before Yemo could say anything, "Patron, I'll have the rest of the pills, name your price." It seemed that the old monk was afraid the other people would buy the rest and instead talked first. Indeed, as soon as the old monk talked, people on the side started to regret. Yemo smiled. Okay, 200k a pill then. However, I'm not a patron. I'll be taking money. Yemo knew that out of all the people here, he was probably the poorest, but he didn't feel it to be necessary to charge more. Yemo took 4 bottles and gave it to the middle-aged man and said, "There are 2 bottles of the same emergency pill. 1 bottle of beauty pill and another bottle is for cultivation. I've written down the specifics on the paper inside the bottle. Open it yourself and look." The remaining 6 bottles were all bought by the old monk. Seeing that Yemo's things were really bought by the old monk, more people rushed up immediately to buy, but Yemo had sold everything. Seeing that even Yemo's pills were sold out and he was now preparing to leave, and Yen just realized she got nothing. If what the old monk said was true, then his beauty pill must really have those effects. The most important thing, however, was that necklace she wanted first was gone. This immediately made Yen feel that things were unfair and could no longer worry about her dignity. She squeezed in and said to Yemo, "I saw your things first. I won't ask to buy one now, but can you reserve a necklace for me?" Her tone obviously softened. Now that she thought about it, she really liked that necklace, but just as the bastard said, there was only one opportunity. She could earn $200,000 again, but the opportunity wouldn't come back. Now, even the middle-aged man felt that Yen was being ridiculous. She just said that Yemo's things were trash worth only a few $100s. But now, she was asking to order. He could not help but to shake his head. Luckily, he didn't heed to this woman's words. Otherwise, he would really be regretting. Yemo really wanted to pre-order and go back to continue making them. But he knew that this thing could only stop now. He could still make excuses now, but if he made too much, it would be hard to explain. Plus, this thing has been exposed too much due to that old monk. Thinking about this, Yemo could only say, "Really sorry, but I'm selling these for someone else. As for whether there will be more, I really can't guarantee. Perhaps I will sell more next exhibition, but it mainly depends on whether there will be more products." Yemo didn't seal the deal. After all, this money was too easy to earn. Perhaps he would need money again and could come back to earn another round. And this exhibition happened every year, it was just held at different places. Seeing Yemo say this, many people walked away in disappointment. Although they were disappointed, they didn't regret too much. After all, it was just a magic artifact. No one had really seen its powers. However, only the middle-aged man and the old monk didn't leave. Even Yen left in anger, cursing Yemo countless times. "I'm Ijioha. I'm running a few companies, and this is my card. If you need any help, please ask." Then Ijioha took out his card. His many years of experience in the business industry made him feel that Yemo wasn't an ordinary person. Thus, he wanted to connect with him, so he left a card. Yemo didn't have a card, nor did he have a phone, so he could only say something polite. After waiting for a while, Yemo didn't give him a name card. Although Ijioha was disappointed, he saw that the old monk wanted to talk to Yemo, so he could only take his 2 daughters and leave. "Dad, this is the first time I see you give a name card." But the person didn't give one back. One of the girls following Ijioha said, "Sister, you're wrong. It's not that this person doesn't want to give a card to Dad. See, he didn't even have a bank card, how can he have a name card? I think he probably doesn't even have a phone. Perhaps this thing really was made by a master living in the mountains who gave it to him to sell." The other girl immediately rebuked. Ijioha's eyes brightened up. He immediately realized that Yemo quite possibly didn't have name card, and wasn't that he didn't want to be connected to him. Then, he couldn't help but to pat the head of the girl and say, "Emichim, Yen is right. He doesn't look like an arrogant person. He is truly a master. And you too need to remember to wear your necklace at all times." Seeing the middle-aged man leave with his 2 girls and Yemo's stall was empty, the old monk said, "I'm Wu Guang from Juyun Temple. What is your surname?" "Patron." Yemo thought and looked at the small ancient character at the edge of the old monk's sleeve and asked, "May I ask Elder Wu Guang if you're from the ancient martial arts sects?" The old monk nodded and said, "Ancient martial arts isn't easy. They usually don't come into the world. I'm just a normal monk in Juyun Temple, however. I came to this exhibition to help some ancient martial arts sects to sell some things. I do have a few things I wish to inquire, Patron. Do you have time, Patron?" Emo was greatly disappointed. So the people here weren't really from the ancient martial arts sects, but those who came to sell their things. It seemed it would be hard for him to ask about Luo Susu. There was a lot of people at Juyun Temple's stall. However, their stall was also very big. Emo followed Wu Guang monk to the resting place at their stall. Immediately, a girl walked up to serve tea. Seeing Emo sit down, Wu Guang monk immediately said, "Sorry for my sudden invitation. I haven't asked for your name yet." Emo came on his own will. If he didn't want to come, it wouldn't be so easy for Wu Guang to invite him. Now that Wu Guang asked, "Master Wu Guang, you're too polite. I'm Emo." Emo thought that this Wu Guang probably wasn't an ordinary folk. Although he hadn't been in a fight with him, his spirit and essence seemed holy. Despite he was an old man in his 70s, his movement weren't slurred at all. As he spoke, his tone sounded potent. Obviously, he was cultivating an inner martial art. "If I'm not wrong, your prowess in martial arts isn't low. This time, I do have a few questions for you. Of course, if it's inconvenient to answer, it doesn't matter." Wu Guang's voice was very soft and very polite. Emo drank some tea and a crisp smell went into his nose. The taste lingered in his mouth. It was obviously a top-quality tea, so he couldn't help but to say, "This tea is indeed great." Wu Guang smiled and said, "If you like it, I can give you some later. This is given to me by a friend." Emo wondered if that friend of his was the one who asked Wu Guang to sell magical artifacts for him. Regardless, he would ask later. However, he said, "Thank you, Master. What other questions do you have?" "Great, then I'll be straightforward. From what I can see, your magical artifacts are even better than the ones I'm selling. I'm wondering if you made them yourself or you got them elsewhere." Wu Guang's eyelids sunk down, but the shimmer in his eyes couldn't escape Emo's spirit sense. Looking at the old monk's eyes and thinking about the fact that he was selling artifacts for those ancient martial arts sects, Emo wondered if he was too high profile. If one of such sect wanted him and took him back as a lab rat, then he would be gone. He didn't think that with his current power, he would be invincible. Thinking about this, Emo stood up and saluted to the old monk. "Master, I wish to ask for your help." Wu Guang closed his hands. "Yes, don't be polite. Please be straightforward." Emo, however, sat down once again and said, "These magical artifacts and pills are all made by an elder in my sect. However, he doesn't wish to come out in the world, so he told me to sell it for them. However, he doesn't need the money. In fact, I only know a little about these sort of things." After looking once at Wu Guang's reaction, Emo paused before continuing, "The thing I want to ask for your help is that please don't get these pills into those ancient martial arts sects to prevent that elder from being offended." However, Emo thought to himself that it seemed Wu Guang didn't really understand the power of the artifacts he was selling. If he knew, then he probably wouldn't be using this attitude, but it was good that he didn't know because he was connected to the sections. If he revealed Emo's power, then it wouldn't be good. It seemed that he need to be less in touch with this monk. After today's things are done, he would leave immediately. Thinking about this, Emo saluted with his fist. "Master Wu Guang, I also have something that I want to ask you. Please speak." Seeing Emo say he didn't make these things, Wu Guang understood. After all, someone as young as Emo wouldn't be able to make such magic artifacts. Moreover, his things seemed pretty well done, rendering a serene feeling. That's why he wanted to buy one. He didn't realize the true effects of the items just as Emo thought. If he knew, then he would probably bring one back no matter how expensive it was. Even if he didn't hand it to the sects, he would keep one for research himself. "I want to ask if the ancient martial arts sects are the hidden sects. How do I enter if I want to enter the hidden sects?" He only occasionally heard about the hidden sects from Luo Susu. Although he didn't ask, he remembered it. Hearing Emo's question, Wu Guang looked at Emo peculiarly. He didn't expect Emo to know about the hidden sects. Not much people knew about the hidden sections. Since Emo asked, Wu Guang didn't decide to hide it from him. Plus, there wasn't anything to hide. He just nodded and said, "Ancient martial arts is a type of hidden sect. Other than that, there are other lines such as Dao sects, Yellow sects, Rune sects, and so forth. However, if you're not one of them, it's best not to try to enter because even if I tell you how to, you wouldn't be able to get there. Even if you did manage to get in, you would be killed straight away. Speaking of this and seeing Yemo's bemused face, he thought Yemo was wondering why the hidden sects could kill people so easily. So he explained, it isn't illegal to kill inside the sects, because no one can go in. As for where each one is located, I don't know either. Although Wu Guang didn't say where the hidden sects were, Yemo understood most of the things. Luo Susu should be one of the lines in the hidden sects, and these people were all cultivation madmen. They usually wouldn't come out or were not allowed to come out. However, each sect couldn't possibly be that tight, and there were always a few restless people who ran out. After running out, they would use their abilities to establish a career for themselves. Since Wu Guang said this, there was no need for him to ask about Luo Susu. Wu Guang didn't even know where the hidden sects were. He definitely wouldn't know Luo Susu's situation. No wonder Luo Susu said it was so hard to come out once. Then where is your Juyun temple located? Yemo asked immediately. However, this time the monk just said, Ami tuofo and didn't answer. Yemo knew the monk didn't want to say it and couldn't help to be contemptuous towards this monk. The monk found him and asked him so many questions, but when he just asked him a few, he didn't even want to answer it. However, Yemo asked what he needed, so he stood up and said, in that case, I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye. The monk didn't have anything else to ask but still gave a box of tea to Yemo. When Yemo returned to the exhibition, there was still a lot of people. He wanted to find Lin Hueha and see if he had already bought what he wanted. If he didn't, then he wanted to leave. He just saw a few ancient stalls and there weren't anything good there. Even the artifacts with faint spirit chi were hardly to be seen. Plus, Wu Guang monk said that he wasn't from the ancient martial arts sects. So Yemo no longer had the intent to ask how they made their magic artifacts. They wouldn't know even if he asked. Yemo scanned with his spirit sense and didn't see Lin Hueha. Lin Hueha was out of range, so he was probably busy. Yemo would also look around and see which of these things were real. However, Yemo was disappointed. After going through half of the places, there were only a few real ones and barely had any function. They were just some ordinary things to cleanse the mind, but they were exorbitantly expensive. But just when Yemo was going back to his stall and wait to meet up with Lin Hueha, a stall that wasn't much bigger than his caught his attention. To be exact, the silver rock on the stall caught his attention. Yemo scanned the rock with his spirit sense and found it to be a space abyss rock. His heart started to beat fast. Space abyss rock, it was the thing used to make dimensional rings or storage rings. In the real cultivation realm, it was rare, much less here. If he had a storage ring, then even if he wasn't that strong, he wouldn't have had such a hard time in the desert. He must acquire this. Yemo's eyes could no longer leave the rock and just walked straight towards it. Hey, what do you want? A voice stopped Yemo in his steps. Yemo just realized he rammed onto someone else. It's you. Yemo didn't expect the person he ran into would be in Yen. This woman really haunted him wherever he went. However, that youth that was tailing her was nowhere to be seen. Oh, sorry. Yemo knew it was indeed his fault this time. There was only space abyss rock in his eyes. And Yen, who was in a bad mood and was about to throw a tantrum, saw it was Yemo and actually calmed down. Although she hated Yemo, she felt like she could make a deal out of Yemo ramming into her. Perhaps she would be able to get that jade necklace. But when she reacted, Yemo had walked over to a stall. It meant that he didn't even take ramming her seriously. And Yen was immediately infuriated and followed him without thinking. However, Yemo was nervous at this time because he saw someone pick up the silver white rock. It seemed that person was also interested in the rock. This was space abyss rock, so how could anyone from here be interested in that? Yemo walked over anxiously and pretended to look at something else. In fact, his spirit sense never left that rock. Do you want to leave after bumping into someone? And Yen ran in front of Yemo and immediately yelled out. Yemo frowned. To be honest, he really didn't want to talk to this woman. He was worried about that space abyss rock. Now that Yen came to annoy him once again, he was immediately angry and turned around, coldly saying, "Piss off. You. And Yen didn't expect this person dared to tell her to piss off. Her face was furious and actually was at a loss for words. At this moment, the youth within Yen walked over. Seeing in Yan's complexion, he asked, "And Yen, what's wrong?" And Yen rubbed one eye with her hand and pointed at Emo. "This person is harassing me." The man's face sunk. He was already annoyed at Emo for not selling the necklace, but he didn't expect Emo to dare to harass Yen. He immediately walked over and wanted to grab Emo's shoulder. But before his hand reached Emo's shoulder, Emo's hand already grabbed his wrist and coldly said, "If you dare to move again, I will step you under my foot. Piss off." This youth discovered that after Emo grabbed his hand, he couldn't move at all. Meanwhile, a bone-aching chill ran onto his body. This youth wasn't ordinary. As soon as the situation arose, he immediately knew that he was a joke compared to Emo. This person who dared to harass Yen was definitely a master, someone countless times stronger than him. He was sure that even if his master was here, he would still be no match for him. Meeting such a master at the exhibition, cold sweat immediately ran down the man's back. He thought about Emo selling things before. Did he really come from the ancient martial arts sects? Otherwise, why did the monk want to talk to him in private? However, luckily at this moment, Emo had released his hand and didn't pay more attention to him. Instead, he continued to watch that stall. "Boss, how much is this stone?" Hearing this voice, Emo's heart sunk immediately. It seemed that that person really wanted the rock. Otherwise, he wouldn't ask like this. Emo was thinking rapidly. If this person really bought the Space Abyss rock, he would buy it back. If he didn't sell it, then he would try and get this even if it meant stealing. This thing was too useful for Emo. Originally, he thought there wouldn't be such good material on Earth, but now that he discovered it, there was no way he would let it go. Plus, Space Abyss rock was much more precious than silver heartgrass. $100K. The stall owner gave a price. "That expensive? This is just a rock. I just want to use it for decoration, seeing the color is so rare. Can it be any cheaper?" The man holding the stone said. At this moment, Emo looked at the man. He was in his 30s and was slim-built. However, he looked very tough. With Emo's experience, this person was a ferocious person. What took Emo's attention was that this man emitted a bleak aura. People who were sensitive to this would even feel cold. This thing was only $100,000, but he was still bargaining for it, meaning that he wasn't rich or he didn't have much money on him. The stall owner shook his head after hearing the words. "Sorry, there's no bargaining. I'm helping a friend sell this." "Oh, I see." The man put down the stone and started to think. Emo immediately took the stone after seeing the man put it down. This was no longer a time to pretend to not care. While this man hadn't decided yet, he would buy it first. "I'll take this stone." Emo immediately took the stone and said. The stall owner didn't expect this stone to suddenly be so popular. Just when the man put it down, Emo already picked it up. Seeing Emo pick up the stone, the man who was still hesitating immediately changed and said, "I got this stone first. What right do you have to buy it? Give it over. I'm buying it." Then he was going to take it from Emo's hand. Emo sneered. "There are so many people here. How come I didn't hear you say you want it? Boss, tell me, who decided to buy it first?" The boss looked awkwardly at the two people and said, "This friend came first." He pointed at that man, but before that man smiled, he pointed at Emo and said, "But the first to say he want to buy is this one." The man was immediately going to get angry, but he realized he didn't have any reason to. The store owner wasn't wrong at all. "I'll buy it for $200,000. Give it to me, he hasn't bought it yet." That man was angry. He didn't think that the thing he wanted would be bought away as soon as he hesitated for a bit. The store owner looked apologetically at Emo, although he knew Emo decided on it first, but the other person gave $200,000. "Okay, I'll also pay $200K. Then Emo took out the check to the store owner. "This is a 2 million check. Just give me 1.8 million change." However, the store owner didn't take the check and instead changed face. All the deals here were in cash or card. Only friends or those whom one was familiar with would do deals in check. Emo was the first to use check and asked for 1.8 million change. Sorry, sir. We don't take check. Only cash or bank transfer. The stall owner rejected immediately. Emo's face also changed. He didn't think that people didn't take check. He believed a check. But that didn't mean everyone believed it. If they didn't take check, it meant that he couldn't pay. If he couldn't pay, would he fight over the rock? Seeing that the person she hated couldn't take out money, and Yen rejoiced. Although she knew that the check in Yemo's hand was probably real, she still loved seeing this situation. There was already a few times she suffered at the hands of Yemo on the plane. Now that Yemo was suffering, there was no way she wouldn't be happy. The youth next to Yen pulled her. Let's go. Why? I still haven't gotten retribution yet. How can I let it go like this? And Yen unhappily said. She still had another intention. If Yemo didn't have money and asked her for money, she would lend it to him but ask for that necklace while ridiculing Yemo. However, the youth quietly said, "This isn't a simple man. We'll talk on the side." Helplessly, and Yen walked to the side with the youth. At this moment, the stall owner took the space abyss rock from Yemo and put it on the table. His intention was obvious. Whoever could afford it could get the rock. Yemo's face changed. There was no way he would give up on the space abyss rock, but he couldn't take out money. He thought about an Yen on the side. Didn't she want a necklace? He would give her one and lend money from her. But when Yemo turned around, and Yen was gone, he couldn't help but to frown more. Of course, and Yen didn't think that her little plan almost succeeded if that youth didn't pull her away. Yemo really was going to ask for money from her. But in this short moment, the bleak-faced man said, "Tell your cashier to go check out with me. I'll give you $200,000 immediately." This stall owner could no longer care about Yemo. It would be hard to sell the stone for $100,000, but now he sold it for $200,000. He quickly told the cashier to check out with the man while he packaged the stone. Yemo looked helplessly at the rock. He really couldn't blame the stall owner. Although his character wasn't good, he was a businessman. Of course, he wanted to earn more money. "Boss, where did you get this stone?" Yemo thought there might be more from where it came from. As though a bit apologetic towards Yemo, the stall owner replied, "From what my friend said, he picked it up near the Qingdao beach. As for exactly where, I have no idea." Hearing the stall owner's words, Yemo was speechless. If he could pick up space abyss stone at the beach, then there would be too much. However, he wasn't sure if the stall owner was telling the truth, so he could only shake his head and leave. After leaving the stall, Yemo quietly walked behind that man and made a spirit sense mark. Since he couldn't buy it, then he had no choice but to steal it. This thing was more useful to him than to anyone else, but someone else had to buy it. Yemo didn't have any moral burdens stealing it from this man. This bleak-looking man was obviously not someone to be messed with easily. But Yemo wasn't afraid of this type at all. Plus, he maliciously increased the price. Look at how the monk increased the price. After the person bought it, he would buy it for extra from that person. If the person didn't agree, he would give up. Of course, Yemo didn't expect this man to have the resolve of Wu Guang. But that man shouldn't expect him to have the resolve of Wu Guang either. And Yen, who just saw Yemo return dejectedly to his stall, couldn't help but to think, "Serves you right." At this moment, Lin Hueha and his friends had come back. Although Yemo had no interest in asking what they bought, Lin Hueha excitedly showed Yemo the magic artifact he had just bought. This was a spirit-calming magic artifact. It would help with sleeping when put at the bedside. Although it looked exquisite on the outside, the effects were too bad. If it was not long before, perhaps Yemo would help him improve it. But now, Yemo had lost interest and casually said it wasn't bad. "Brother Yi, did you finish selling as well? If you're finished, then let's go." From Lin Hueha's perspective, it would be very lucky if Yemo could even sell his things for a few thousand. Yemo smiled and said, "Brother Lin, you go back first. I still have some things to do. I'll go visit you later. Oh, I also have a bag of tea here. A friend gave it to me. It's yours now." Seeing Yemo was busy, Lin Hueha didn't mind too much. He took the tea and left with his friend. After Lin Hueha left, Emo just constantly sat in his stall and didn't shop around. He just kept his spirit sense on that bleak-looking man. If he didn't get this rock, he wouldn't give up. With such a big piece, he could make 2 storage rings. Although Yen wanted to go up and ridicule Emo. She saw Emo's annoyed complexion and remembered the ferocious way he told her to piss off and held back on her actions. However, Emo noticed that the man who bought the stone didn't leave and still walked around. However, Emo was patient. Even if the man stayed till dark, he wouldn't mind. And Emo also noticed that a long-haired man followed that man, but the two didn't talk. After that man walked around for another 20 minutes, he finally made his way to the exit. Emo just kept his spirit sense on him and didn't walk up. As expected, the man wandered around the exit for another while before leaving. Emo noticed that he actually left from the safety exit. The long-haired man didn't leave with him. Emo immediately used an invisibility magic and followed. Because Yen was still annoyed due to the necklace, she had her eyes on Emo. But when she blinked, she actually found that Emo disappeared. She thought she looked wrong and rubbed her eyes, but Emo really disappeared. She was dazed. She didn't know if she blinked for too long or she was seeing things. This bleak man had a handbag and walked beside an Audi. He looked around and took out a cigarette but wasn't in a rush to leave. It seemed that he was waiting for someone. If he was stage 2 chi gathering, Emo would probably kill this man or knock him out and take the space abyss rock. But at this moment, that was unnecessary. He thought he would have to follow his car, but since this man didn't leave, that would save more time. Emo just took the rock without even using a substitute in invisibility. He left immediately. If he couldn't make a storage ring before he went to Beijing, then he at least needed to prepare the other materials. Before the man finished smoking, the long-haired man walked over. The two really were together. The two nodded upon arrival as the bleak man reached inside the bag in his hand. He wanted to take the space abyss rock out and show it to the long-haired man. But when he reached his hand in, his face rapidly changed. He found that the rock he spent 200K on was gone. He really did leave it in there, and the bag was always in his hand, so how would it disappear? Plus, with his power, how could he not know someone stole something from him? Sumu, what's wrong? The latter man noticed something was wrong and asked. The man called Sumu just held the bag without replying immediately. Did you lose it? That long-haired man nervously asked. From his expression, one could tell how much it meant for him. The man called Sumu shook his head. No, that thing is still there. Hearing Sumu's words, the long-haired man felt relief. Since that thing is still there, what are you afraid of, Sai? But I felt I lost something thousands of times more precious than that. Sumu shook his head. His face was bleak. Stop bullshitting. What could be more precious than the attacking artifacts from the hidden sections? We spent 50 million getting that. Master said if he finished his solitary training, he will be able to break through. Then he will go see Qianlong too. Even if he doesn't break through, Qianlong too would be more cautious with him with this attacking artifact. The long-haired man said. The man called Sumu frowned and answered after a long time. It's because I feel the thing I lost is the spirit-sensing stone, Master said. Master said that there is a type of stone where if you hold it in your hands and close your eyes feeling it with your body, you will have this feeling of spreading your spirit. You can even feel its vastness as well as an indescribable feel of space-time. This stone is really important in helping me break through. Speaking till now, he looked at the long-haired man and said, if that was the spirit-sensing stone and Master got it, then he would have a greater chance in breaking through. Perhaps we can use this stone to break through in the future. This stone that makes you feel a vastness is priceless. Don't you think it is so much more precious than the thing we came to buy? There really is such a stone? Then for a true ancient martial artist like Master, that stone would be. The long-haired man didn't speak the rest, but Sumu knew what he meant. If that stone really was the spirit-sensing stone, then it would definitely worth more than that 50 million attacking artifact. Sumu's face was serious. It should be him, otherwise why did he keep such a close eye on it? It meant that he knew how special the stone was. It was because he wanted to buy that made me make my decision. Only he would have the motive to steal it, now that the stone has disappeared. You sure you weren't being followed? The long-haired man soon understood. If things were really as Sumu said, then that stone really would be so much more precious. Sumu shook his head. Definitely not, perhaps? Sumu suddenly subconsciously looked at the exhibition and said to the long-haired man, "Let's go in again. Tell the organizer to close the doors and investigate." The long-haired man frowned and said, "In that case, we're telling Metal River that we have come. So what if they know? Metal River is Uncle Metal's and Master's, not Wu Xueming's. If Master wasn't in solitary training now, Uncle Metal would have gotten rid of him with his cockiness and subvert disobedience to Uncle Metal's words. We'll let him jump around for a few days." He had already forgotten who had given him his authority. Su Mu's bleak face seemed bleaker with his bleak tone. The long-haired man nodded. "That Wu Xueming has been too arrogant recently." Then, the two went back to the exhibition. Emo returned to the clinic in a good mood, but he saw Lu Xiaozhen and Yu Eru discussing something. They hurried to greet Emo upon seeing his return. "What is it that you're so happy about?" Emo asked casually, seeing both of them were so happy. "Master Xiaozhen has found a mansion. It's just a bit far and the price is 1.8 million. Because this family is in a rush to leave, the price isn't too high," Yu Eru replied. Emo was also very happy hearing that they have found a new place. He didn't mind it being distant. He wanted it to be far and discreet. He immediately gave that check to Lu Xiaozhen. "Use this money to buy the mansion. The faster the better." Lu Xiaozhen took the check. Looking at the numbers on it, she almost screamed. Master just went out for half a day and brought back 2 million. This was too absurd. But then she immediately thought of Yemo's words and dragged Yu Eru with her. But before she left, she remembered something and asked, "Master, give me your ID." Yemo waved his hand. "Use your own. Time is of the essence." Lu Xiaozhen poked her tongue out but also knew of Yemo's character, so she didn't ask anymore. The reason Yemo wanted to move so quickly was because Lin Hueha knew he went, and Lin Hueha knew where he lived. If someone wanted to, it wouldn't be hard for that person to find him. Moreover, he got the Space Abyss rock today. Other people didn't know of its value, but he did. He just didn't know if that bleak-looking man bought the rock due to the same reasons, but regardless, he needed to be alert. Of course, the main reason was because he wanted to plant his silver heart grass there. Although it didn't die here, but it didn't seem to be very alive. Instead of waiting for it to die here, it would be better to change places. If that place still didn't work out, then he might really move back to Ninghai. Although Lu Xiaozhen just graduated less than a year ago, she did things very fast. It was only a week, and she had done all the procedures right away. Plus, that family was in a hurry to sell the house, so they had already moved in within a week. Sinai Peninsula. In Nanqing's grandiloquent meeting room, only a few people sat there. In the middle was a man in his 60s. He had a pair of hawk eyes and loose eyebrows. However, his lips were very thick. This was the leader of Nanqing, Chen Baihe, also called Chen Longtu. Many years ago, Chen Longtu no longer ventured into the underground world, but those who heard his name would all give him respect. No gang dared to go against Chen Longtu. Not only in China, but even the African and European gangs also need to be fearful of the name Chen Longtu. However, Chen Longtu's face was very bleak at the moment. He just stared at the screen and didn't talk. Other than him, there was 6 other people in this room. 2 of them Yemo would know. One was the woman he sliced the arm off, and another one was Lang Ji. Other than this, there were 4 other people. A skinny man wearing red clothes sat closely beside Chen Longtu. He was in his 40-foot, triangular eyes and very long eyebrows. However, he also frowned as if in contemplation. He was the advisor of Chen Longtu, Dongfang Shi. The only person still drinking water is a youth who looked very scholarly and had a neat face. Although he wasn't handsome, but he wasn't ugly either. Although he looked the most ordinary, he was the most mysterious in Nanqing and also said to be the strongest. He was Wu Chong. As for how strong he was, no one knew. Only Lang Ji knew of his strength a bit, but Lang Ji was definitely no match for him. Even Chen Longtu was a bit respectful towards him. Other than this, there was a nun. The nun looked very fresh. She sat with the girl who had her arms sliced off by Yemo. It seemed the two were related, but that girl's broken arm was already attached back. It seemed she underwent surgery, and her face was still pale. She sat beside the nun. The last person seemed a bit recluse but had a face full of ferocity. He was Qian Longtou's close henchman, Li Sandao. Also the general of Qian Longtou's army. Could be said Nanqing's most central people were all here. However, the atmosphere was very dead. After long, Dongfang she relaxed his eyebrows and said, "From the tape and Lang Ji as well as Zisu's description, this EMO is indeed strong. However, as for fireball and invisibility, I have my own outlook on that." Seeing everyone was listening to him, Dongfang she continued, "I won't talk about the fireball. The technology now is so advanced, it is very easy to make something into a fireball. However, the temperature of his fireball is so high, meaning that the fire source is quite special. As for invisibility, I suspect he acquired some artifact from the hidden sections. Otherwise, I really wouldn't believe someone can just suddenly go invisible. Even people from the hidden sects can't do this. But one thing I'm certain, his power is very strong. What do you make of it, Master Huiyan?" Qian Longtu didn't make his opinion after hearing Dongfang Shi's words. He asked that nun after a while. The nun slowly said, "For this thing, my disciple is already heavily injured and paid the price of an arm. My promise to Brother Qian has come to an end. I won't make my opinion on this. I will take my disciple and leave now." Then the nun stood up and Zisu followed her. Qian Longtu frowned seeing the nun stand up but didn't stop her. After a while, he stood up and said, "Since Master Huiyan is leaving, hopefully we'll see each other again." Huiyan didn't say anything and just left with her disciple. The nun even drove a car over. It seemed that she was planning to leave a long time ago. After getting on the car, Zisu curiously asked, "Master, why are you leaving? Uncle Qian is very nice to us, and my hand was chopped by that bastard. I still want my revenge." The nun sighed. "Zisu, you only see one side of Qian Longtu. You haven't seen his vicious side. He can take 1 month to kill someone, have you seen it? My brother owed him, so I promised to do 3 things for him. This time, getting you to go to the desert with Lang Ji to stop EMO is the last promise. From now on, we won't be related anymore." "But Master, aren't we going to get revenge?" Zisu immediately asked. She really didn't want to let it go like this. She had been practicing martial arts for so many years. All her mastery is in her hands. But now her hand was destroyed. "Revenge?" Huiyan repeated before saying, "Do you think you can get revenge? I don't know who Yemo is, but I'm too clear on what sort of a person Qian Longtou's son is. Yemo definitely had a reason for killing him. Do you think it's so easy to get revenge from Yemo?" "Why?" Zisu asked. "Didn't that Dongfang Shi say Yemo used flammables for the fireball and magic artifacts for invisibility?" Huiyan coldly said, "Do you need to listen to what he says? I see that you like living in the mortal world and don't want to go back. If that's the case, you can stay." "No, Master, I'm just saying," Zisu hurriedly said, seeing that her master was being serious. "Then don't talk about it anymore. Do you really think the hidden sect can make an invisibility artifact? And what flammable substance do you think can ignite that quick and just incinerate the body straight away? Even I could tell that Yemo definitely didn't use flammable substance. That is just Dongfang Shi cheating himself. Didn't you see him make hand seals? He is a scary person. Don't mess with him." Huiyan still felt nervous thinking about the scene. She wouldn't be so clueless like normal people. Her sect was also a part of the ancient martial arts but just rather declined. Now, they were no longer a part of the hidden sect. But this didn't mean she didn't know anything. Some sects were indeed powerful, but not powerful enough to make invisibility artifacts. "Brother, why did we let them go?" Lang Ji asked confusedly after seeing Huiyan and Zisu really leave. Qian Longtu waved his hand and didn't reply. Although he didn't want them to leave, he didn't have any reason. At that time, he said they could leave when they helped him do 3 things. Now if he tried to force Huiyan to stay, they would have conflict. He already had conflict with Yemo. It would be no good if he were to have conflict with Huiyan. Originally, Qian Longtu thought that Emo was someone not important. Killing him would be all too easy. But he didn't expect Emo to be so ferocious as to face tens of Nanqing elite without any pressure. It was like he was taking a stroll, and this made Qian Longtu fearful. Although that Emo said he would come for him, he wasn't scared. But if he really did have that flammable substance and the invisibility artifact, then it would be quite hefty for Qian Longtu. So he decisively aborted his hunt for Emo because someone like Emo couldn't be hunted by Nanqing. Those who went would only die. Another reason was that it was said Metal River's Xian Daoist has finished his solitary training and was about to break through. If he really did, then he would come to his place just to show him his power. However, Qian Longtu didn't have any method. Although Wu Chang was strong, he was from Miaojiang and had a wild personality, not really listening to him. The main thing was Wu Chang was no match for Xian Daoist, much less Xian Daoist after breakthrough. Qian Longtu suddenly felt a headache, but the situation now was that Emo wasn't afraid of him and might come to his place. Why did his son have to go into conflict with Emo? If it was someone else, Qian Longtu would have already cut his head. Seeing Qian Longtu annoyed, Dongfang she smiled once again and said, "Big brother, you don't need to be so worried. I have already analyzed things. Even if Emo came, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Nanqing. Plus, he might not even dare to come. This isn't the main thing. After some analysis, my conclusion is that our enmity with Emo is growing mainly due to the Song families pushing the waters in the dark." "Why do you say this?" Li Sandao, who hadn't been talking, asked bemusedly after hearing Dongfang Shi's words. Dongfang Shi said with confidence, "This is very simple. Emo killed Song Shaoan. This is no longer a secret, and the Song family have been political adversaries with the Yi family even in the business side. Just when Emo went to kill Song Shaoan, he met Shiping, but it is highly possible that Emo thought Shiping was Song Shaoan's person and killed him casually. Meanwhile, the Song family used that opportunity to bring us to face Emo together and create the scene that the Yi family values Emo in front of our eyes so that we would attack the Yi family. Meanwhile, they promised us a lot of benefits. Even if we knew the Yi family had the same attitude to Emo before, we would still agree to the Song family's offer. It's because their gift is too lucrative. Moreover, there is no harm in us collaborating with them. Plus, we were going to kill Emo anyways. So what? Although Lang Ji was strong, his brain wasn't too good. He still didn't really understand Dongfang Shi's words. Originally, it's nothing. We even earned a low T, but there was the variable Emo. No one knew Emo was so strong. Perhaps even the Song and Yi family didn't know. Dongfang Shi said. "So you're saying we should stop our attack on Yi family immediately?" Qian Longtu interrupted. Dongfang Shi shook his head and drank before saying, "No. In fact, the Yi family dislikes Emo right now. We know this. Before, we targeted the Yi family using Emo as an excuse. The Yi family's fate doesn't concern Emo at all. We were attacking the Yi family just to receive the benefits the Song family promised us. Now, there's no need for us to have conflict with the Song family. Instead, we should have a truce with the Yi family." Dongfang Shi said with confidence. "Then what should we do? Emo killed my son. No matter how strong he is, I will still kill him. I won't be able to rest unless he is dead." Qian Longtu was used to his power. Although Emo was absurdly strong, it was impossible for him to give up revenge. Dongfang Shi calmly said, "Of course we won't let Emo go, but since the Song family wants to use us as a bait, then we might as well do the same. Emo's power is indeed out of our expectation. But the Song family doesn't know that now. In their eyes, Emo is still the same Emo. If we arrange a conflict between the Song family and Emo while we spice their conflict and make it bitter until it reaches Emo's bottom line, once Emo is infuriated with his personality, he would definitely go look for big trouble with the Song family." Qian Longtu frowned. Even if Emo were to do that, the Song family wouldn't be able to keep him. He would be able to run away easily. "It's wrong to think like that, big brother. On the surface, the Song family isn't as infamous as us, Nanqing, but don't underestimate the 5 big families of China. None of them is easy to deal with. They definitely have some hidden power which won't be unleashed until in times of crisis. And Yemo's personality is very decisive. If he is infuriated, then we can create the situation of him and the Song family fighting to the death. Speaking till now, Dongfang she took out a board of weiqi and a few white pieces on the table before continuing. Once Yemo and the Song family start fighting, the government would definitely side with the Song family. It could be said that Yemo would be gang-banged and hunted by the government. Then he added another white piece. Qianlong too couldn't help but to say, although Yemo was kicked out of the Yi family, but it should be impossible for the Yi family to hunt Yemo. Meanwhile, Dongfang she assertively said, I can be sure that the Yi family would definitely agree. This time, the Yi family is tricked too and forced to fight with us Nanqing. The Song family's trick was obvious, but they couldn't do anything about it. If we put ourselves with a lower attitude and even compensate for some of their losses, the Yi family wouldn't reject us for someone they abandoned. Lang Ji seemed to understand a bit, but said, if Yemo escaped, we still wouldn't be able to do anything to him? Plus, with his power, it doesn't seem hard for him to escape. Lang Ji had seen Yemo's power. He didn't think he was exaggerating at all. Yemo indeed had the means to escape. At this moment Dongfang she put the white pieces all around the black and said, look, this is the government's hunt. This is the Yi family and Song family and even us Nanqing. The only way he can escape is here. Then, Dongfang 11 pointed to the gap. He can't take plane, so the only way he can leave is from the ocean. And would we be afraid of anyone in the ocean? So we want him to run. This way, with Yemo's power, the Song family would suffer heavy losses after their fight, and Yemo would be trapped and hunted by us in the ocean. I just won't believe that our entire army with this much firepower can't keep a Yemo. Even if he can go invisible, he can't go invisible against bullets. No matter how strong his fireball is, can it be stronger than a rocket? Then, Dongfang she put a black piece at the gap, and in front of it, he put multiple black pieces again. He smiled and said, this is called the black eating the black. Great. Qianlong too palmed the table and his frowned eyebrows relaxed a bit, but then he asked again, but how can we make the Song family infuriate Yemo? Dongfang she frowned and said after some time, it would be best to capture and kill someone close to him or kidnap them and bait him into the Song family. We aren't so easily used even if we're given benefits. Qianlong too laughed loud. Right, we'll use Dongfang brothers' way. Only that would make me feel satisfied. So what if they're the Song family? But Yemo had been kicked out of the Yi family. Who would be his closest person? Lang Ji asked this question for everyone. Dongfang she suddenly laughed. This person is very easy to find. It's Ning Qingxue. Before, Ning Qingxue used Yemo as a shield and faked their marriage, but I'm sure this fake has become the real thing. I don't know about Yemo, but from our information, Ning Qingxue didn't file divorce, meaning that she might have actually fallen in love with Yemo. I don't completely understand Yemo's character, but I know that if he knows the Song family had harmed Ning Qingxue or was taken away by some silk trousers of the Song family, then he would be enraged. At that time, we'll add some oil to the flame. It would be best if we can get some photos or something and send it to Yemo, making him sure that the Song family did it. If we reach this step, then everything will go according to plan. Li Sandao looked at the collected and smooth Dongfang Shi and just suddenly felt shivers on his back. This guy even took people's character into his calculations and made hunts for Yemo from multiple sides, all for the eventual benefit of Nanqing. This man was too hideous and scary. Lang Ji, send people immediately to discover Ning Qingshue's whereabouts and do as Dongfang Shi says. Yemo is in Luotsang now, try to get the news to him. Qianlong too said decisively. Yes. Although Lang Ji's hand was disabled, his martial arts was still there. Compared to Wu Chang, he was more favored by Qianlong too. Of course Ning Qingxue didn't know about this. She was staying with Qi Wanqing in her company at Luotsang. Although they weren't able to stay with Yemo, they got along well. She even talked with Qi Wanqing more than Li Mumei. Because the two had a common topic, Yemo, they even shared the bits and memories of Yemo they had. Perhaps their longing was too deep. Ning Qingxue even told Qi Wanqing about taking photos in pajamas with Yemo. and when Emo looked at her body when she was asleep. It was as though telling her these would make Ning Qingxue feel that Emo didn't leave her and was just by her side. Of course, Qi Wanqing didn't hide the fact that she took off her pants in front of Emo. It was unexpected that the two girls became closer and closer, talking about these trivial memories and even slept together at night. There were many times Ning Qingxue wanted to leave Luozong and go back, but she didn't dare to leave. It was as though once she left, all her ties with Emo would be severed, and the only tie was Qi Wanqing. Sometimes, she felt her thinking was very weird, but she couldn't control it. Of course, Emo didn't know Ning Qingxue was in Luozong, and neither did Ning Qingxue. If she knew, perhaps she and Qi Wanqing would have came ages ago. Although both sides didn't know, they couldn't hide it from Nanqing despite Luozong being Metal River's region. Lang Ji didn't need to do it himself to capture two women. He just ordered it, and as for how they took them, he only needed to send a few men. Plus, the two were living in the same company. This wasn't hard for them at all. Qi Wanqing's company wasn't in the rural district, but they had a factory in the rural area. She and Ning Qingxue didn't live in the factory but at the company. The ownership to the business building was under her mum's name, but now, after her mum helped her establish the company was pretty much Qi Wanqing's. The 5 men sent by Lang Ji were decent in fighting power, but they didn't plan to abduct Ning Qingxue at the building because there were security around the building after all. They planned to wait outside after the two finished eating dinner and abduct both of them. As for Qi Wanqing, although she wasn't a target, but since they were abducting Ning Qingxue, she couldn't be let off. Of course, Emo didn't know of Chen Longtou's plan. After moving to his new place, he moved the silver heartgrass seeds over. After this was done, he was prepared to go to Beijing. Before he left, he specially told Lu Xiaojin and Yu Eru to set up the online clinic. After all, selling artifacts wasn't too secure, and he needed lots of money for his future cultivation. He needed a stable source of income, otherwise always going out to make money wasn't good for his cultivation. Emo planned to go straight for Chen Longtou after coming back from Beijing, but he needed to leave the border if he wanted to do that. He could only go to Li Hu for help if he wanted to cross the border. Although Ning Qingxue didn't want to leave Luozong, Ning Qingxue knew she had to leave. Not only was her parents rushing her, she also felt she needed to go back and think what sort of feelings she had for Emo. Why couldn't she let it go? Qingxue, you're troubled? Qi Wanqing knew Ning Qingxue should be thinking about Emo, but she still couldn't help but to ask. After asking, she found her question to be unnecessary. Ning Qingxue shook her head. Wanqing, I think I should leave. Some people, it's better to think about them at heart. You don't have to get them or be with them. I think time will take away everything. Qi Wanqing fell silent. She didn't know how to comfort Ning Qingxue because she felt the exact same. They originally thought Emo didn't have someone he liked, and Ning Qingxue seemed to have fallen in love. Other than admitting she liked Emo, she told her everything else. Whether it was Ning Qingxue or that masked woman, they were all better than her. She couldn't reply to Ning Qingxue because she was also a part of it too. The two were just walking silently, with not one of them wanting to bring up that topic again because the topic they liked have become melancholic over time. But at this moment, a few people suddenly charged from behind them. The two people sliced with their palm to the necks of Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing. Another two followed, wanting to bring the two away. Qi Wanqing always stayed in the army and had quick reactions. She subconsciously avoided her neck, but her shoulder still received a strike. It was burning with pain. She immediately knew things weren't good, but before she could react, the other two charged towards her. Ning Qingxue didn't have any reactions, but when that palm was close to her neck, a faint yellow circle emitted from Ning Qingxue's bracelet and formed a barrier. The person who tried to attack her was shot back meters away by the yellow barrier. He sat on the ground in shock, looking at Ning Qingxue. He still didn't know what shot him away. It seemed to be a yellow light, but now he saw nothing. Meanwhile, Ning Qingxue looked at her wrist in shock. She clearly heard a crack from her bracelet as though something exploded. Then, a yellow light shot out from her wrist and formed a yellow ray of barrier. Although it was in a short instant, it had already deflected her attacker meters away. What happened? The two attacking Qi Wanqing rushed to the man on the ground and asked. This thing was out of their expectation. Not only was Qi Wanqing stronger than anticipation, Ning Qingxue seemed to be countless times stronger than Qi Wanqing. She seemed to know evil magic. A yellow light flashed and they were shot out meters away. This was too absurd. If both women were this strong, then the 5 of them wouldn't be enough. Qi Wanqing and Ning Qingxue reacted. They knew that someone was attacking them. Although Qi Wanqing didn't know what that yellow light was from Ning Qingxue's hand, it didn't mean she wasn't going to counterattack. Her reaction was faster than those few people and didn't even think before calling, "Little wolf, go bite them." A black shadow dashed, and the man still fighting with Ning Qingxue was bitten on the neck. The man immediately turned to run, but just when he reached his partners, he fell to the ground. Retreat. The last man who came saw 4 of them failed capturing the 2 women and one of them was down. He immediately knew there was a wrong estimation by his boss, so he immediately called to retreat. "Little wolf, come back." Qi Wanqing saw the 4 take away the man on the ground and Little Wolf was still going to attack, so she stopped it. She knew Little Wolf would kill. These few wanted to kidnap them. It didn't seem all right to her to kill them all, and she had to hurry and tell her father. Ning Qingxue had completely awoke and looked at Qi Wanqing in surprise. "Wanqing, was that Little Wolf the one you told me Yemo gave to you?" Qi Wanqing nodded. "Yes, Little Wolf is quite strong. Those that it bites will die unless ye brother saves him." Ning Qingxue suddenly thought of the yellow light in her hand. She looked down and saw that the 3 beads on her wrist had one broken. It was the jade bead of the bracelet? Ning Qingxue mumbled and she was dumbfounded. "Qingxue, there was a yellow light from your hand and it formed a barrier deflecting your attacker. What was that?" Qi Wanqing also asked. Ning Qingxue didn't seem to hear Qi Wanqing's words and just mumbled. "So the bracelet he gave Jingwen has such effect. No wonder he calls it the 6 beads of fortune. This is what it meant, it can block bad fortune 6 times. Suddenly, Ning Qingxue felt bitter. He gave the bracelet to Jingwen and Little Wolf to Wanqing, but he didn't give anything to her. She suddenly felt bad. Was she really that atrocious? Thinking about this, Ning Qingxue felt guilty. Why should he give something to her? He helped her block the demon from the Song family and saved her life. Right. Last time, Su Jingwen said she thought Yemo was the master who sold the runic charm and later knew he wasn't. But didn't she have a few runic charms on her now? Ning Qingxue suddenly took out the fireball charm and looked at it. But eventually, she didn't test it and just grabbed it in her hands. "Qingxue, what's wrong?" Qi Wanqing asked. She suddenly thought of Su Jingwen. After knowing the meaning of 6 beads of fortune, would she regret giving it to her? She also thought wrong of Yemo's hearty gift. But even if she did, the beads of her bracelet were still given to Su Jingwen by Yemo. The bitterness in Ning Qingxue grew. Regardless of authenticity, she was his wife, but no, Ning Qingxue suddenly though that Yemo did give her something. Wasn't the things in the box given to her by him, much less, he lived with her for more than 20 days. Although she took them, but Yemo also came back once and treated her using the medicine inside. But Yemo didn't take anything in there away, not even his identity. And those 3 beads were in the box too. But he didn't take them away either. What did this mean? This mean that Yemo's things were for her. Sometimes, things didn't have to be said out loud. What was in that box? Identity, runic charm, letter, medicine bottles, golden needles, and some money and receipt. This was all he had at the time. He gave her everything he had. But what did she give Yemo? Other than using him as a shield and wasting his money, she even caused him to be hunted down by the Song family. And now, she was blaming Yemo for not giving her something. Was she really a bad woman? Ning Qingxue took out a few runic charms and held them tightly in her hands, while tears circulated in her eyes. "Sorry, Yemo. I miss you." At this moment, she finally realized that she really did love Yemo, not due to other reasons. Ning Qingxue had never thought that she would finally understand herself after being ambushed. Sometimes, could memory really be washed away by time? Some people just couldn't be forgotten even with time. "Qingxue, are you okay?" Qi Wanqing saw the tears Ning Qingxue tried to hold back and asked worriedly. "I miss him, For the first time, Ning Qingxue didn't find an excuse and just said she missed EMO. How is Qi Shan? In a normal-looking van sat 4 people and 1 young man lying down. The one who asked was the driver. He might not make it. His face is completely black, and he's not breathing, someone replied. The driver remained silent for a while before saying, "We'll immediately go to HQ. San Kai, call Brother Lang and notify him. Just say the target is too difficult. We have lost a brother." Okay. Before the youth spoke, the driver's phone sounded. San Kai, wait. Let me pick up a call. The driver connected to the call. The car was going slower and slower until it stopped by the side of the road. Brother Lang, I was just going to call you. The driver just realized Lang Ji called when he picked up. Lang Ji's bleak voice sounded, "Black Snake, don't move yet. Wait till I come. I've just received news that Qi Wanqing is from the military and is still serving. She is a special ops, so she must quite strong. Before we attack, we need to make a new plan. I'm on my way to Luotsang." Black Snake fell silent for a while before saying, "Brother Lang, your words are late. We just attacked and we lost a brother. That Qi Wanqing does seem strong, but that Ning Qingxue seemed to be stronger. She can easily kick someone a few meters away. On top of that, she has a projectile weapon that kills immediately. The poison on it is very strong." Black Snake obviously thought Little Wolf was a projectile and still felt fear when he mentioned it. The 5 of them came together. He was the head, but he was responsible for driving. Originally, he was planning to abduct Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing and leave immediately. He didn't expect to not only fail but also lose 1 man. What? Lang Ji sank into contemplation and said after a while, "Wait for me at HQ. I'll be there soon." Lang Ji didn't expect things to turn out this way. Not only was Qi Wanqing absurdly strong, but so was Ning Qingxue. It seemed he was too careless. Probably even Dongfang, she didn't expect Ning Qingxue to be so strong. EMO was at his new mansion seeing if he could set up a simple defensive formation. Although he didn't have much material, a simple defense formation could solve a lot of problems on Earth. However, as soon as he came out, he saw a van parked outside the mansion on the road. There was only 30 or so meters between them. EMO scanned with his spirit sense and heard the name Ning Qingxue. Not only so, he also heard Qi Wanqing's name. Moreover, EMO also found that there was a dead man. Just looking at the wound, he knew it was bitten by Little Wolf. Combined with the phone call, EMO worked out the story behind it. These few people went to capture Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing, although he didn't know why they were doing so, but EMO immediately had killing intent. He could even guess it was related to him. At this moment, the van started driving again and EMO followed it without thinking. If Lang Ji knew that he was noticed by EMO because of his call and the van coincidentally parked outside of EMO's residence, he would be full of regret. Even he only knew that EMO relocated but didn't know to where. However, Lang Ji believed that as long as EMO was still in Luotsang, he would be able to find out. The van twisted and turned. EMO followed for a whole hour before the van drove into a rural district manor. EMO scanned with his spirit sense. There was only 1 person in the manor, but this person already knew things went wrong. As soon as the van drove in, the man went to help carry the dead man. Ajen, close the door. After Black Snake got off, he ordered while he walked inside the manor. "No need. I already helped you close the door." A sudden voice interrupted him. Black Snake turned around and immediately saw a normal-looking youth at the doorway. The manor was indeed closed. "Who are you?" As soon as Black Snake said these words, he pulled out a sword. So did they people behind him and quietly surrounded EMO. He didn't know if they had guns, but EMO didn't see any of them take one out. "I'm EMO. I think you should know something about me." EMO wasn't sure who these people were sent by, but since they wanted to capture Ning Qingxue, perhaps they were from the Song family. "You are EMO." Black Snake heard the man at the door say he was EMO and immediately, his heart skipped a bit. He wasn't a normal gang member and had some status in Nanqing. Many people in Nanqing didn't know EMO, but it didn't mean he didn't know. He even knew that they were kidnapping Ning Qingxue due to this EMO. He didn't believe he would be a match for Emo. He had heard that of the 20 people who attacked Emo in the desert, no one was left alive. At that time, the people there even had guns, but they were all still killed by Emo. He even heard Lang Ji say that ever since Emo came back from the desert, he seemed to have gotten stronger. Now, Emo was standing in front of his eyes and he didn't know what to do. Although Emo was bare-handed and he had 5 men with swords, he still felt he was naked under Yemo's glare. It was obvious that the other 5 also heard about Emo and stopped in their steps. 3 of them didn't even think and tried to call, but before they even unlocked their phone, the 3 were nailed to the ground. Metal nails again? Black Snake and the remaining 2 looked at the foreheads of the 3 that went down. Red seeped from there and immediately, they felt cold. Emo was decisive in killing. He knew these people were either from the Song family or Nanqing. Regardless of who, he would still kill them. You guys came for me? Or should I say came to look for trouble with me? Emo plainly said. Black Snake, who had been part of many gang clashes, slashed countless people and even been slashed, felt he was shaking after speaking just one word. He was scared. Someone who had never known fear was feeling horror. Emo wasn't a human, he was a demon. If it was someone stronger than him, he could still charge up and slash him. Even if he was killed in the end, he would feel his death was hot-blooded. But faced against Emo, he actually didn't have any courage to charge up. Emo didn't even need a sword to fight him. He only needed 1 metal nail and Black Snake would fall to the ground like the other 3 without any resistance. Just 1 metal nail. No matter how hot-blooded he was, he couldn't change this fact. San Kai and Ajen's face was worse. They have heard of Emo and knew he was tough, even going as far as killing their big boss's only son yet still able to freely roam. Even their big boss didn't have a direct way of dealing with him and needed to abduct his woman to threaten him. From this, it could be seen that this person wasn't someone they could handle. Aren't you going to invite me in for a seat? Emo smiled and said. Yes, please, Black Snake dryly said. For the first time, he felt so worried speaking to someone. For the first time, he felt the word please was so hard to say. Even to Lang brother, he would talk casually and not be so reverent. Emicham, I won't be polite then. Then, he threw a few furballs casually and the 4 bodies on the ground turned to ash. The stories were true. San Kai and Black Snake looked at the ashes on the ground in shock. They couldn't say anything. In the gang, he heard that Emo could fly in the sky and travel under earth, could shapeshift and even spit out the Samaya true fire. Although he didn't spit it out just now, but the fire could still incinerate human body. If that wasn't Samaya true fire, what was? Arg! Ajen couldn't take it, but he just spoke 1 word and was turned into nothingness by Yemo's fireball. Black Snake and San Kai didn't dare to talk even more. Now, Emo was the embodiment of the devil for them. They've been in gang business for a long time, spilling blood and seeing bodies, but now, Emo killed with just a few drops of red. Before the blood even gushed out, the person would be turned to ash. Emo walked into the room and sat down. Looking at the shaking Black Snake and San Kai, he said calmly, Isn't gang life all about killing and licking blood? Why are you like this after I just killed a few? Black Snake gradually calmed down. Although his body was calm, but he was still very frightened in his heart, but was much better than before. Hearing Emo's words, he couldn't help to think, killing and licking blood. There must be blood to lick. By the looks of it now, they were worse than meat on the chopping block. The good thing was Emo didn't continue this topic and just asked, Are you from the Song family or Nanqing? Speak. Black Snake sighed. Now he had to say it. He didn't wait for Emo to ask and just told him everything he knew. Although Black Snake was limited in what he knew, Emo already understood that Chen Longtu abducted Ning Qingxue to threaten him. As for how, he didn't know. Chen Longtu, Nanqing again. Emo was more furious. He was planning to let them live a few days more, but he actually didn't want to live. Lang Ji is coming today? Emo thought that if he wanted to go to Africa, then he would probably need Lang Ji. Before Black Snake replied, Emo detected Lang Ji with his spirit sense. He just brought a driver. Emo waved his hand and stopped Black Snake from talking anymore. The door was half closed, And when Lang Ji got off, he walked straight into the room. He thought that Black Snake and the others should be waiting for him in the room. Perhaps he was occupied, so he didn't think about why Black Snake didn't come out to greet him. When Lang Ji entered the room, he was shocked because the person sitting there was no other than the person he didn't want to see the most. He really couldn't understand how Emo was here, but he immediately realized that their plan was exposed. The driver who came in with Lang Ji obviously didn't know Emo, but looking at the scene, he seemed to understand what was going on. Lang Ji, I've been waiting for you. Seeing Lang Ji's shocked face, Emo blandly said. Lang Ji reacted and said, "How are you here?" Emo scanned him and said, "You don't have the right to ask questions here. Who do you think you are? How dare you be impolite to Brother Lang?" Although the driver guessed Emo's identity, but Emo dared to be rude to Lang Ji, so he immediately shouted, "Who am I?" Emo raised his hand and a metal nail had pierced the driver's throat, killing due to one sentence. Emo was indeed too cocky. Lang Ji's heart burned with fury, but he knew he was no match for Emo, so he could only suppress it. He understood that in Yemo's eyes, he was no different to his little goons. Black Snake and Sankai just kept their heads low. They already knew Emo was merciless. He never even spoke of why he killed, but he just killed if it displeased him. It was as though in his eyes, life wasn't life. Emo was more suited to live the gang life than him. "Why are you abducting Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing? Tell me, and I can consider letting you go." Emo's tone was plain, but his fury was no less than Lang Ji's. He already told Lang Ji to go warn Qianlong too, but they still dared to attack him. However, they just changed the target to people close to him. Qianlong too had already been listed by Emo as someone who wasn't allowed to live a day longer. "Keep dreaming. Even if I die, I won't betray Chairman," Lang Ji hatefully said. Hearing Lang Ji's words, Emo was happy instead of angry. Lang Ji didn't say he didn't know, just that he wouldn't say. However, this was no problem for Emo. If he wanted Lang Ji to speak, he had 100 ways, but he was already a stage 3 Qi gathering cultivator. If he couldn't even deal with an ordinary martial artist, he would really lose face. He didn't even ask twice and just raised his hand. 3 metal nails flew out, all hitting Lang Ji's head. The absurd thing was the nails only went in by half, no blood came out. After Lang Ji was shot by the 3 nails, he immediately became dumb. "Now tell me why Qianlong Tu wants you to abduct Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing." Emo's voice was still cold, but Lang Ji nodded. Hearing Lang Ji tell Dongfang Shi's plan without leaving out any detail, even how Zisu and her master left, Black Snake and Sankai just felt cold shivers down their back. This was not because of Dongfang Shi's plan, but because even someone like Lang Ji couldn't resist Emo's means. Emo's face got worse. This Dongfang Shi was really someone. Although he wouldn't be scared of Qianlongto's army nor being surrounded by them. But after this, Ning Qingxue would probably die. Qi Wanqing would be affected too. And with his personality, if something happened to Qi Wanqing and Ning Qingxue due to him, he would definitely slaughter the Song family. Once he did that, his only way would be overseas. This Dongfang Shi really was someone. He didn't even meet Emo, but based on what he did, Dongfang Shi's calculations were immaculate. If he didn't give Qi Wanqing Little Wolf, or if Ning Qingxue wasn't with Qi Wanqing, then the first step to the plan would have succeeded. But no matter how Dongfang Shi calculated, he didn't expect Ning Qingxue to be with Qi Wanqing and didn't expect Qi Wanqing to have something as strong as Little Wolf. Even more so, he didn't expect this thing to be known by Emo. But even if Emo didn't know, it would be impossible to take away Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing with Little Wolf there. But the success rate of this thing itself was too great. In other words, if Ning Qingxue wasn't in Luotsang, this plan would have succeeded already. Dongfang Shi, what a sinister person. Emo said Dongfang Shi's name again and decided he must kill him. Otherwise, he really wouldn't feel comfortable. If Emo was still stage 2 now, he would use their plan to make the Song family and Nanqing fight again, but that was unnecessary now. He was stage 3 Qi gathering, so he didn't need these plans. He could just bring the battle to their door. It was no good in delaying his attack on Qianlongto's HQ. With Dongfang Shi being so cunning, The slightest clue could let them escape. Thinking about this, Yemo asked, "How do you go back after succeeding?" "I will leave some people to deal with Yemo while I take my men back to Mangjiang. There's a direct flight from Mangjiang to Sri Lanka. From there, we have our own flight to fly directly to Sinai Peninsula." Lang Ji's reply was very detailed. Yemo sighed. Other than him, anyone else, or even any other country wouldn't be able to do anything about Chen Longtu. He even had his own flight in Sri Lanka. This meant he could have it in other places as well. No wonder he was so cocky. He did have the basis to be cocky. If it was a normal people, what could they do to Chen Longtu even if that person was an ancient martial arts master? Would they be able to go to Sinai Peninsula? Yemo turned his head and looked at Black Snake. "If we get to Sri Lanka, would you be able to find the plane to Sinai Peninsula?" Black Snake nodded. He knew that if he said no, then he would be the next to be killed. Yemo waved his hand and the 3 nails flew back to his hand. Lang Ji regained consciousness, but he didn't say anything. It was obvious that although he was controlled, he still knew what he said. "Take me to Sinai Peninsula and I can let you go," Yemo blandly said to Lang Ji. Lang Ji seemed to hesitate, but he immediately said, "Kill me. I won't take you there. If you want to go, Black Snake can take you. I don't know what sort of person Chen Longtu is, but I'm sure that you are just a subordinate to him, that's all. I don't know how you entered Nanqing, but if you didn't have much ability, someone like Chen Longtu wouldn't take you. You know this." Seeing that Lang Ji wasn't so adamant on his refusal, he immediately had the thought of taking in Lang Ji. He didn't need Lang Ji to listen to him but just wanted someone to take control of Nanqing instead of Chen Longtu. Lang Ji had some loyalty, but not someone who is stubborn in loyalty. Seeing Lang Ji's eyes flash with hesitation, Yemo knew it was not because his words moved Lang Ji, but it was more of Lang Ji thinking if he died for Chen Longtu like this, would Chen Longtu even remember him for 3 minutes? Although his tone was tough, he still hesitated when given a chance at life. He thought about himself. Although he had been in Nanqing for many years, each time he brought up wanting to use Nanqing to help him get revenge. Chen Longtu just start to persuade him, always making him wait longer. Then he thought about this time. If he wasn't just injured on the hand but completely disabled, how would Chen Longtu treat him? He really wasn't sure. But following Chen Longtu for so long, he knew of Chen Longtu's personality. One thing was certain, and that was Chen Longtu wouldn't feed someone useless. Seeing Lang Ji contemplate, Yemo coldly said, "I will definitely kill Chen Longtu. Do you think Chen Longtu can escape from my hands? I'm not persuading you. I just don't want too much hassle. After I kill Chen Longtu, I need someone to take over Nanqing. You're just more suitable. If you don't want to, I will still kill Chen Longtu. It's just that you won't be taking over Nanqing." "What?" Lang Ji looked at Yemo in shock. He didn't believe that Yemo actually said he would be controlling Nanqing. That was almost like being an emperor. "And I can even cure your hand. Other people can't do anything about it, but that doesn't mean I can't," Yemo said once again. He didn't know Chen Longtu's character and didn't have a good way to persuade Lang Ji. If Lang Ji still rejected, then he wouldn't waste time and just kill him straight away. "Okay, I agree. However, I have one condition." Lang Ji suddenly raised his head and said, "Speak," Yemo blandly said. Lang Ji looked at Black Snake and San Kai until their hair were on edge before saying, "Although I know that Chen Longtu was just using me to work for him, he still saved me before. I don't want to fight him, so I can't help you against him, even if it's just bringing you into the headquarters of Nanqing." Yemo sneered. "Do you think I need your help with killing Chen Longtu? If you really don't want to be this new leader of Nanqing, then I can grant you that wish." He didn't think Lang Ji had any right to argue with him. Lang Ji knew that Chen Longtu was using him, but he still couldn't harden his heart to attack him. This meant that he was indeed loyal, but not someone to do great things. "I can take you to Sinai Peninsula, but I won't participate in other things." Seeing Yemo unhappy, Lang Ji knew his request was unreasonable. He wanted to be boss but didn't want to put any effort. Yemo, however, said, "If you can't show your decision, then don't worry about it. I won't let you kill Chen Longtu, but I need you to take me into the HQ of Nanqing. Once I see Qianlong too, it's not that I can't go in, but I need your pledge of allegiance. You must do it. If you are still fearful, then I have no use for you. Although he was saying things like that, Yemo also knew it was hard to find someone to replace Qianlong too. At the very least, this person needed to have certain power and status in Nanqing. Otherwise, even if he found someone else once he left Nanqing, then that person would die soon after. After hesitating for a while more, Lang Ji finally made his decision. Okay, but I won't attack. Yemo smiled. He knew Lang Ji would agree. Although this sort of person was loyal, he didn't take Qian Longto's life to be more important than his own. Seeing Lang Ji agree, Black Snake shivered. Next, Yemo would perhaps kill him. With Lang Ji showing the way, Yemo had no need of him. Thinking about this, Black Snake quickly bowed to Yemo and said, Brother Yi, Sankai and I wish to be under the leadership of Brother Lang. Please grant our wish, Brother Yi, and let us go. Hearing Black Snake's words, Sankai also hurried forward and bowed. Yemo thought this Black Snake was quite intelligent. He didn't beg for his life, but instead said he wished to work for Lang Ji. Could be seen that he was very clear on the situation. He begged for survival and said he would work for Lang Ji because Lang Ji is the successor to Nanqing appointed by Yemo. They would only have a good life ahead if they worked for him. Yemo thought it would be so much better if Black Snake could be the new boss for Nanqing, but he didn't have a way to get him up there. After all, Black Snake's level was too low in Nanqing. Lang Ji felt it was weird that Black Snake and Sankai were pledging allegiance to him in front of Yemo, but he understood that they were trying to stay alive. Sina Peninsula. Chong Long Tu and Dongfang Shi, Wu Chong and Li Sandao were discussing things anxiously in the meeting room. However, other than the four, there were a few other Nanqing members. It was because these few days, Lang Ji didn't report anything. They even heard news that Ning Qingxue was still in Luotsong and were not taken away. Since Ning Qingxue wasn't taken away, why didn't Lang Ji report back? Chairman, did something happen to Lang Ji? Li Sandao suddenly asked. Dongfang Shi frowned but didn't talk. He was thinking, how could something happen to Lang Ji? Even if Qi Wanqing came from the military, it was not quite possible for her to kill or capture Lang Ji. Qianlong Tu also frowned and said after a while, perhaps Lang Ji needed to make another plan. After all, this sort of thing can only be done once. And seeing how there's no reaction from Ning Qingxue and Qi Wanqing, they probably haven't made a move yet. Just when Qianlong Tu finished his words, the phone sounded. A phone that could reach and hear was definitely important. Qianlong Tu signaled for Dongfang Shi to answer the call. Dongfang Shi picked up the phone, but the report from the call made him have cold sweat. Because Lang Ji didn't have news, Dongfang Shi sent scouts to Luotsong again. Qi Wanqing's father, Qi Yujun, was furious and actually mobilized the entire police force of Luotsong to find Qi Wanqing's attackers. It was said this even alerted the military. Not just Luotsong but also the places around Luotsong where there were an established police force as well as military. Dongfang Shi put down the phone and just felt his back cold. He just received news that Qi Wanqing and Ning Qingxue were fine, and now he received news of Qi Yujun doing a complete search in Luotsong. Dongfang Shi knew that not only did Lang Ji attack, but he also failed. However, he didn't even send word back and neither did their people who went with him come back. This was a strange thing. With Lang Ji's abilities, even if he died, he would be able to find a way to send a message back. Now that no message was received, what did this mean? It meant that Lang Ji had betrayed Qianlong Tu. Only Yemo would cause Lang Ji to dare to betray Qianlong Tu, and he was sure that Yemo had the ability to kill Qianlong Tu. Otherwise, even if Lang Ji died, he wouldn't betray Qianlong Tu. Last time, Lang Ji reported that Yemo would come to Sina for revenge, and in the tape he brought back, Yemo did say that. He didn't even need to think to know that Yemo was really coming. It seemed he underestimated Yemo. No matter how he knew of Lang Ji's mission this time, there was only death waiting for Qianlong Tu. For someone like Yemo, he wouldn't come to Sina alone if he wasn't sure he could kill Qianlong Tu. But how could Yemo have so much power? In Lang Ji's eyes, he could even slash his way into Sina. Although Dongfang Shi didn't trust Lang Ji's judgment, and didn't even believe Yemo could fight into the HQ of Nanqing all by himself. He had always been a careful man. If Lang Ji betrayed and brought Yemo in, then the HQ would be a joke. Plus, Yemo could become invisible. He rather believed something to be true than testing it with his life. Plus, there was one point he didn't say out last time from the video. He said that Yemo may have used flammables, but he didn't say Yemo used hand signs before shooting the fireball. And there was also another point he didn't say. It was Yemo slicing Zisu's arm in mid-air. This definitely couldn't be explained by high-tech. Plus, he had never seen the invisibility artifact, he said himself. It was all a guess. He only said that so that Chen Longtu wouldn't lose his fighting will. If Yemo really came to Sina and took in Lang Ji, then last time the only reason he kept Lang Ji's life was so Chen Longtu would lose his fighting will. If that was the case, then this Yemo was indeed scary. Scary people wouldn't be scary after being killed, but since he couldn't even kill Yemo with his tactics, then it was too scary. Thinking about this, Dongfang Shi wanted to run. But all these thoughts flashed across Dongfang Shi's mind like a flicker, and his face was still normal. Brother Dongfan, the phone just then. Chen Longtu saw Dongfang Shi answer the phone and was deep in contemplation, so he asked. Dongfang Shi smiled. Don't worry, brother. The phone just then was indeed by Lang Ji. He said he wants to attack tomorrow night. However, he told me his plan, and I felt there were some holes, so I told him to wait for my call. I'll go make the plan now and report to you later. Is that okay? Chen Longtu waved his hand. Go for it, and you don't need to report to me. Just make arrangements and contact Lang Ji directly. However, tell him to report everything on time no matter what from now on. Yes, brother. I'll go now. Then, Dongfang Shi smiled and nodded to Wu Chong and Li San before exiting. Chairman, why didn't Dongfang say why Lang Ji hadn't been in contact? The few kept talking, and just when Chen Longtu decided to end the meeting, Li Sandao suddenly said. Chen Longtu was dazed as he thought about it. Indeed, Lang Ji hadn't been in contact for many days. Since he made a call, he should say why he hadn't been in contact. Why didn't Dongfang Shi say it? Chen Longtu subconsciously said, perhaps Brother Dongfang didn't take note of it. But then, he thought that they were just talking about it, so how could Dongfang Shi forget about it? Even Wu Chong felt Dongfang Shi's actions were weird. He rarely spoke in the meetings, but this time he also spoke, chairman, before Dongfang advisor's tactics came easily. He usually made them as the meeting progressed, but why does he have to leave and then make it this time? With Wu Chong's reminder, Chen Longtu's mind suddenly jolted, and he immediately remembered Dongfang Shi's usual behavior and his carefulness. He was indeed quite odd today. For him, abducting two women was a small issue, so why did he need to leave and think? This wasn't logical. Thinking about this, Chen Longtu said, immediately check who called just then. The results came out in less than a minute. The call wasn't by Lang Ji, but instead by the scouts sent to Luozong. Not good. Hearing this news, Chen Longtu immediately knew things went wrong. Dongfang Shi dared to trick him. This had never happened before. Bring Dongfang Shi here immediately. Then, he supplemented, dead of alive. Soon, a soldier rushed in and reported. Report. A few minutes again, Dongfang advisor had left through a helicopter. As for where he went, we don't know yet. What? Chen Longtu's face was pale. He didn't expect that Dongfang Shi actually dared to run away. He planned more than 90% of the tactics for Nanqing, and he knew everything about Nanqing. This Dongfang Shi was almost like the second in hand of Nanqing, but he actually ran away. Chen Longtu's face kept changing, but he eventually calmed down. He knew Dongfang Shi's wisdom all too well. If he could betray him and run away, it meant that Dongfang Shi no longer had any hopes for him. But he still had an army of 2,000. Was that not enough for a mere Yemo? However, Chen Longtu was still sane. He immediately thought that Dongfang Shi's tactics rarely failed. Even his viewpoints were mostly correct. Did he have to leave? Dongfang Shi could run. But where could he go? What place was safer than Sina for him? Suddenly, he felt his control wasn't strong enough. There were too many loopholes in the chain of command. If one needed to contact him before using the helicopter, then Dongfang she wouldn't be able to run away as well. Moreover, he found that a few of his trusted men didn't need to be reported to come in. This was also a loophole. Dongfang Shi was his advisor. There was no way he didn't know these loopholes, but he never reminded him. This meant that he was prepared to run a long time ago. Good one, Dongfang Shi. Even if I look through the entire world, I will capture you back. Qian Longtu said between clenched teeth as he smacked on the table. No, I want to see how many heads and hands this Yemo has that forced even Dongfang Shi to betray me. Someone investigate the contents of that call. I will capture this Yemo. I'll let him know that Chen Baihe, hasn't aged yet. Qian Longtu didn't feel the pain in his hand at all and yelled once again. No need, I'm here already. Yemo's plain voice sounded in the meeting room. Qian Longtu's voice came to a sudden stop. He looked at the door in astonishment. He had multiple levels of guards, so how did Yemo reach him without any sound? Soon he saw Lang Ji and his face became green again. Lang Ji, you heartless animal, you dare to betray me too. I will kill you. Qian Longtu was going to reach for his gun. But in his astonishment, he found that his wrists could no longer move. A bloody red color was spreading across it. Yet he didn't even feel pain. Metal nail? The metal nail of the legends? Lang Ji didn't say anything. Qian Longtu saw his wrist was shot by a metal nail and his heart went cold. He knew he was gone today, but he didn't think Yemo would be this strong. He could come in front of him without him noticing at all. This was too absurd. Even with Lang Ji's help, Lang Ji couldn't bring a stranger into his territory. Was his invisibility real? Qian Longtu had calmed down and he looked slowly at Lang Ji and then Wu Chang. He knew the only chance he had at living was for Wu Chang to hold Yemo there, or perhaps get Lang Ji to turn sides again. A teen in his 20s, however, came running in and didn't even care about Qian Longtu because he was Lang Ji's close man. Someone who Lang Ji brought into Nanqing after he joined. He gave a letter to Lang Ji, saying, before advisor Dongfang left, he told me to give this to you, saying it can save your life. Lang Ji immediately opened the letter and there was just one line of words. When you were surrounded and attacked at Macau those years ago, it was planned by Qian Longtu. Lang Ji's face immediately changed. He didn't think that Qian Longtu, whom he had been so loyal for all this time, would use this type of means. Funny how he still worked with his life for more than a decade. He was worse than a pig. No wonder every time he said he wanted to annihilate his adversary, Qian Longtu would just say that the time wasn't ready yet. So this was it. No wonder when he was running away he just happened to meet Qian Longtu at Macau. This was no coincidence. Qian Longtu liked to gamble, but he would never go to Macau to gamble. When he first started working for Qian Longtu, Nanqing wasn't as big as it was now. Could be said that there was a major share of work from him in Nanqing. Could be imagined that Qian Longtu heard about his name. Although Lang Ji offended someone strong and ran to Macau, he still used means to get Lang Ji to work for him. Lang Ji couldn't think why Qian Longtu's advisor would give him this hint, and he didn't have the time to think. He just scrunched up the paper and threw it at Qian Longtu. Chen Baihe. No wonder you're always delaying my revenge. It was done by yourself. Fuck, and I still say that I am indebted to you. I'm going to kill you myself today. Yemo didn't look at the letter, but he could see from Lang Ji's infuriated expression that Qian Longtu seemed to have tricked him. He was thinking if he should kill Lang Ji after he was finished with his things, but now it seemed that it was no hurry. Perhaps there was more use for Lang Ji. Seeing Lang Ji charge towards Qian Longtu, Li Sandao immediately stopped Lang Ji. Lang Ji, you're injured now, you're no match for me. I don't want to attack my brother. Brother, fuck off. Qian Longtu stabbed me in the back in order to get me to work for him, and I really thought he coincidentally saved me. Li San, are you also tricked by this bastard like me? Lang Ji was furious. Li Sandao shook his head however. The chairman did indeed save my life. I won't let you attack. Li Sandao was very clear how Qian Longtu was like to him. When he was begging on the streets, if Qian Longtu didn't take him away, he would have starved to death. He swore he would serve the chairman his entire life. However, his character was a bit clumsy, and there were many things he couldn't do. Although he was Qian Longto's most trusted man, he could only help lead Qian Longto's army. However, he didn't need to have the wisdom of Dongfang Shi to lead a hired army. Emo watched as Lang Ji and Li Sandao started fighting. They were actually evenly matched. It seemed that this Li Sandao was not bad. Wu Chang's eyes turned. He wouldn't be loyal to Qianlong too, but he still needed to test Emo. Although he felt he was no match for Xian Daoist, but he felt he wasn't far off. After all, he was only 30 or so. Meanwhile, this Emo seemed younger than him. He didn't believe everyone had the same fortune as him. When he was 10, he met a master at Miaojiang. He had been practicing martial arts for 26 years now, and was working very hard. He wouldn't be distracted due to other things. He loved women, but for martial arts, he could even refrain from sleeping with one for 3 years. He didn't believe that Emo, a mere 20 years old, could be a match for him. Wu Chang, although I know you have some powerful weapons or artifacts, but I still want to try if you're really as strong as they say. Wu Chang smiled faintly and said, but before he finished, his leg had kicked out. All of Wu Chang's power was on his legs, but his killing move wasn't on his leg. No one knew his killing move because those who knew were already dead. Although he just fought with Xian Daoist for a few rounds, it was just a test battle, so he never used his killing move. The wind brought by his legs had a rhythm. Other than Emo, no one could even feel it, but as soon as Wu Chang attacked, Emo knew he was much stronger than Lang Ji. For someone like Wu Chang, his invisibility was useless because he was only stage 3 Qi gathering. If he went invisible and used his Qi, then Wu Chang would feel it. However, invisibility without any Qi and killing intent had no attacking effect. Moreover, Emo wanted to test how strong the masters here were, so he also kicked out. Seeing Emo actually kick to his leg, Wu Chang surged with excitement. Even when Xiao Daoist was fighting him, he didn't dare to use his leg to clash with his. This Emo was so naive, he would certainly break his leg. Bang! 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 After a few clashing sounds, Emo just felt his leg bones were a bit painful, but he stood where he was without moving. This was the first time he saw a normal martial artist train his leg to such a degree. Wu Chang took a few steps back. Although his legs didn't break, but that bone-wrenching pain almost made him yell out. He looked at Emo in shock. It was just a quick clash, but he already kicked more than 20 times. However, Emo didn't even move and just used his legs to kick him away. He never would have thought that his legs would be kicked to pain by someone else. He already spent more than 20 years training his leg. Even if Emo was training in his mother's womb, he couldn't train his leg to be stronger than his. As Emo mobilized his Qi, the pain disappeared. Wu Chang's leg was this strong. This was greatly out of Emo's expectation, but Emo didn't want to waste time. He flung out a metal nail casually. Clink! Almost at the same time Emo shot out the nail. A white light flashed at Wu Chang's sleeve, and the nail was blocked. However, Wu Chang stumbled back a few steps and spat out blood. Emo was shocked. It was the first time his metal nails were blocked. Wu Chang was more shocked. When he was kicked away by Emo, he kept his attention on whether Emo would shoot out the nail. He had already seen it once when Emo attacked Qianlong too. Even if he focused all of his attention, that metal nail still almost hit him. If he didn't have that killing move, then he would perhaps be dead. He didn't think his killing move was just to block one nail from him. He didn't even have time to attack Emo. This Emo was absurdly strong, so much stronger than he expected. Although he hadn't even used 10% of his leg power, but he knew he was no match for Emo. If things continued like this, death would be the only thing that awaited him. He had to leave now. Emo saw that his metal nail was actually blocked by Wu Chang and felt surprised. Although it wasn't as fast as a bullet, but it wasn't too far off. However, it was still blocked by Wu Chang. Suddenly, the white light from Wu Chang's sleeve flashed once again. The white light split into more than 10 rays which converged towards Emo. Even Emo felt a little threatened. Although Wu Chang's white light was very fast, it had nowhere to hide under Emo's spirit sense. It was a small knife. He didn't think the knife could split into so many white blades. It seemed the knife was specifically made. Perhaps this was his killing move. Emo raised both his hands as his chi surged. These white blades were all covered by his chi in front of him. Bang! At the same time, Wuchang had ran to the window place. He didn't even have the time to kick and just rammed with his head. Emo sneered, and the white light in his hands were thrown back to Wuchang. Wuchang coughed but soon disappeared. However, Emo wasn't worried. He knew that the blades he threw back had struck Wuchang's leg in a few places. No matter how strong Wuchang's leg was, the blades would still break his tendons. Although Wuchang had escaped outside of the range of his spirit sense, Emo didn't care. The blades that Emo shot back not only severed Wuchang's leg tendons, but they would also gradually dissipate the life force on his legs. In other words, although Wuchang escaped, his legs would be disabled. For someone who had all his power on his legs, Emo couldn't be bothered to care after his legs were debilitated. He just stared at Qianlong Tu. Qianlong Tu didn't have Wuchang's power to run through windows. Lang Ji had already beaten Li Sandao to the ground but didn't kill him. At this moment, Lang Ji wanted to kill Qianlong Tu more than Emo. Even the other few members of Nanqing in the meeting were also killed by Lang Ji. Qianlong Tu stared at Emo with a pale face and said after a while, "If it wasn't for Lang Ji, this traitor, I have an army of a few thousand. Would I be scared of you?" Emo walked a few steps and sat down. "It is useless to mobilize your army against me. That would just cause more death. Did you think you could trap me in the sea? You overestimate yourself. To me, your army is no different to a few chickens and dogs. I originally planned for you to live a few days extra, but I didn't expect you to seek death. You dare to look for trouble with me again." Then Emo shook his head. Lang Ji stared at Qianlong Tu with hatred. If Emo wasn't here, he would have already charged on him already. But for Emo, he had a deep fear. He knew no matter who he was, Emo could kill him as easy as killing an ant. Qianlong Tu gasped and suddenly felt like he had met the end of his road. Perhaps he looked glorious, but the person who really did what he wanted in Nanqing was Dongfang Shi. He did many things after listening to Dongfang Shi's words. If it wasn't for his plans, then perhaps he really would have been scared by the news Lang Ji brought back. Or perhaps even if Dongfang Shi persuaded him to run, he wouldn't believe his words. Qianlong Tu had regretted challenging Emo, but everything was too late now. At this moment, he wanted to kill Dongfang Shi more than Emo, but he knew Emo wouldn't let him go. "If you let me go, I'm willing to satisfy you with all my wealth. I was blinded and dared to challenge you. I just want to kill Dongfang Shi who betrayed me and left." If there was a regretting medicine, Qianlong Tu would rather be a turtle than act against Emo. He never expected the world to have someone as horrifying as Emo. Even people from the ancient martial arts wouldn't be so arrogant when facing his army. Xian Taoist was pretty strong and perhaps even on par with Emo, but he didn't dare to do anything to him. Although he couldn't do anything to Xian Taoist either, he still had the power to fend him off. But facing Emo, he realized perhaps even Xian Taoist was no match for him unless Xian Taoist could break through. Hearing Qianlong Tu's words, Emo's heart moved. He wasn't going to let Qianlong Tu go, but he thought of something else. This Nanqing had great power and wealth. If he could use it to help him find spirit grass, that would be great. Moreover, the people he could use right now was only Lang Ji. Thinking about this, he looked at Lang Ji and said, "Do what you need to do. After that, I need to have a talk with you." Lang Ji had been waiting for a long time. Now that Emo made the call, he didn't hesitate at all and kicked. Qianlong Tu would have never thought that he would die under the foot of his trusted man, Lang Ji. Before he died, even the person he thought he could trust the most, Dongfang Shi, betrayed him. Seeing Lang Ji kill Qianlong Tu, Emo looked at Li Sandao. He didn't ask Lang Ji how to deal with him. Although Lang Ji was accepted by Emo and he was also one of the powerhouses of Nanqing, it wouldn't be so easy for him to stabilize his rule. In Emo's opinion, Lang Ji shouldn't have killed these few old men in the meeting. Instead, he should have made them surrender. But since Lang Ji killed them, Emo didn't care. How to grasp power was Lang Ji's problem, not Emo's. As for the internal battle, it didn't concern him if Lang Ji was killed. Nanqing, including Lang Ji, weren't good people. So what if they died? The more they fought, the more died, the better. But no matter what they did, as long as they didn't annoy him, he wouldn't care about them. Brother Yi, please give me orders. My life is yours from now on. After killing Qian Long too, Lang Ji suddenly felt the gloominess in his heart dissipate. Of course, Yemo wouldn't believe Lang Ji's words. For people like him, their own lives mattered the most. Yemo just sneered inside when Lang Ji said those words. However, he believed that Lang Ji no longer dared to hunt him or anything. If he did, then he would come back and send him to hell. After you are done dealing with these things, I have some things I need you to do, but I haven't cleared them out yet. I'm going to Beijing immediately. When I come back, we'll go to that house and tell you the things I need you to do. If you can do it well, I don't mind curing your hands. If I'm unsatisfied, then don't expect me to treat you, Yemo blandly said. He wouldn't help Lang Ji up his power and treat his hands for no reason. Even if he were to treat his hand, that would depend on how much help Lang Ji is to him. Lang Ji could only nod to agree. Okay, you need to organize Nanqing now, I won't manage it. Do what you like. I'm going. Afterwards, Yemo turned and left. As for whether Lang Ji could really control Nanqing, that was his business. Of course, Lang Ji knew Yemo was testing his ability. If he really couldn't take control of Nanqing, then to Yemo he would have no value. Although he knew Yemo's idea, Lang Ji didn't dare to disagree. He quickly told Black Snake to send Yemo to the airport. Of course, Qi Yujun didn't get any result in the investigation at Luotsang. Not only did Nanqing's men disappear, even Metal River's men seemed to know something was happening at Luotsang and left. But unexpectedly, Ning Qingxue, who was originally planning to leave, stayed. Although Qi Wanqing didn't know for what reason, she didn't want Ning Qingxue to leave. If she was by herself, she could only go back to the military. This life was too much of a torture for her. Qingxue, who do you think is trying to capture us too? Qi Wanqing believed it could be related to Yemo, but she wasn't too sure. Ning Qingxue thought and said with certainty, it should be due to Yemo because both of us are related to him. These people probably want to capture us to threaten him. So you don't want to leave Luotsang because you're afraid you would be captured by these people and be used to threaten Brother Yi? Qi Wanqing wasn't stupid. Seeing Ning Qingxue say with such certainty their abduction was related to Yemo, she could think of why Ning Qingxue wanted to stay. MHM. Ning Qingxue nodded. I owe him too much, and I've been dragging him down. Even the Song family's hunt on him was due to me, and he almost lost his life. If I'm captured by his enemies again, he would definitely be affected. When I go back to you state, I would be living with my mother. It won't be as safe as with you. At least there's little Wolf's protection here. I can't burden him anymore. Past mistakes are in the past, but if I'm still going to make mistakes, then even I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. Ning Qingshue's tone seemed distant. Seeing Qi Wanqing look at her in surprise, Ning Qingxue continued, he's a man with great abilities. I just didn't know before. I'm thinking if those people are targeting him due to this, but regardless, if he had no worries, it would be better. Ning Qingxue thought about Yemo's pills and the protection beads he made as well as those runic charms. For the first time, she felt she was far from understanding Yemo. The Yi family would have never thought that Nanqing, whom they were in heavy conflict with, would suddenly come asking for cooperation and even compensate for their losses. Their only request was for the Yi family to help the Song family in dealing with Yemo. The two great families of China plus the greatest gang would be fighting a mere Yemo. The Yi family could already foresee Yemo's fate, but unexpectedly, before the Yi family had made up their mind, the Nanqing people suddenly went back and only left behind contact details. Although this seemed simple, the leader of the family, Yi Beirong, didn't immediately agree to Nanqing's request and instead opened a meeting. Different from the previous ones, Yi Zifeng was included in the meeting. Yi Zifeng was Yi Mo's younger brother. Yi Beirong was straightforward about the situation and asked everyone to voice their opinion. Grandpa, although Yi Mo's my brother, I wouldn't go out of my way to talk for him. From the family's perspective, we can't agree to Nanqing's request. No matter what, Yemo is from the Yi family. If we're going to hunt someone from our own family, we're using our own stick to beat ourselves. We would just be making a joke out of ourselves. As soon as Yi Beirong finished talking, Yi Zifeng spoke. No one would have thought the first one to talk would be Yi Zifeng, not just because he was the youngest, but also because it was his first time participating in the family meeting. As soon as Yi Zifeng finished, Yi Huang stood up and said, "Zifeng, that's wrong. Emo is no longer a part of the Yi family. The entire Beijing knows this. Saying he's from the Yi family is an insult to us. I think this is a great opportunity for our family. Not only can we resolve our conflict with Nanqing, but we can also make our business return to its former state. There's not a single harm in this." Yi Zifeng immediately said, "What do you mean, Yi Huang? Even if Yi Mo isn't the biological son of my father, he's still been living in the family for so many years. So what if I call him brother? Is my brother not a part of the Yi family? You actually agreed to help Nanqing attack Yi Mo. Do you have no shame? You?" Yi Huang immediately stood up and was about to argue. But Yi Beiguang coughed on the side, and Yi Huang realized this was a family meeting and quickly sat down. However, the fury in his eyes grew. Yi Beirong didn't seem to see the fight between the two younger generations and slowly looked at the others and asked, "What do you guys think?" Yi Long said, "I think Yi Huang is right. Yi Mo is indeed no longer a part of the Yi family. It's hard for Nanqing to release such a signal of peace. Moreover, they are even willing to compensate us. I think we should accept it. After all, our fight with the Song family is clear. So we should join forces with Nanqing and trap Yi Mo even if it's just for show." "I agree," Yi Wenjin said. "I also agree," Yi Wenqi said. "Agree." No one didn't agree except for Yi Zifeng and Yi Beirong, who hadn't said his opinion. Besides Yi Beirong sat an old man who also didn't say anything. Other than them, everyone else agreed with Yi Long's words. Yi Zifeng's face was pale. However, Yi Huang looked at him in satisfaction. Yi Zifeng didn't say anything. He understood that if there was anyone in the Yi family who was willing to help Yi Mo, it would only be him. Even his sister, Yi Ling, looked down on Yi Mo and hoped Yi Mo would get kicked out. However, his power was limited. When Yi Mo was studying at Ninghai, he could only send some of his pocket money to Wang Ying for Yi Mo to use. At this moment, Yi Zifeng just wanted to notify Yi Mo quickly to tell him not to come to Beijing. He was really worried, but he suddenly thought of something. His grandpa knew that only he thought Yi Mo was still part of the family. Why did he still let him participate in this family meeting? Thinking about this, Yi Zifeng shook with excitement. Did his grandpa think the same way? Yi Zifeng never thought Yi Mo wasn't his brother. As for blood testing that Yi Mo wasn't of the same father as him, Yi Zifeng didn't believe that at all. He knew that his big uncle hoped to kick them both out of the family. However, Grandpa liked his father and him better. They couldn't kick him out, so they made up drama on Yi Mo. Although Yi Mo wasn't so achieving and allowed them to find a reason to kick him out, Yi Zifeng was always careful and wouldn't let them get a hold of him. However, his sister Yi Ling was still immature and was getting more distant with him and Yi Mo, and was instead getting closer with the people on his great-uncle's side. "What do you think, Brother Jing?" Yi Beirong suddenly looked at that old man sitting on the side. Everyone in the family knew this Brother Jing wasn't of the Yi family. As for why he could appear in this meeting, no one knew. This old man smiled and said, "Beirong, you're making things hard for me. I shouldn't intervene with your family issues. After all, I'm not surnamed Yi." However, Yi Beirong actually nodded after hearing this and said, "Okay, thank you for your hint. I understand." Everyone else looked at the leader in surprise, not knowing what he understood. That Brother Jing obviously said he didn't want to say anything. What did the leader understand? Yi Beirong sighed. There were two little elite men from the Yi family. In all of these people, he couldn't find one suitable heir. He already understood Brother Jing's words. He meant that Yi Mo was from the Yi family, so it was the Yi family's business. He also specially pointed out that he wasn't surnamed Yi. This meant that other than him, Yi Mo and everyone else was named Yi. But no one understood this meaning. Yi Beirong wasn't an idiot. If Yi Mo was a simple person, then Nanqing wouldn't need to use the Yi family and Song family to deal with him. It could be seen that Yemo had completely changed and was no longer the Yemo they knew. As for what encounters Yemo had, Yi Beirong didn't know. He only needed to know that Yemo was someone even Nanqing felt threatened by. Yi Beirong really wanted to see Yemo right now and see what sort of a person he had changed to. Even the leader of Nanqing, Qian Long too, felt so threatened by him. Even the Song family couldn't do anything to them. Everyone in the Yi family knew now that Yemo killed Song Shaowen. Not only the Yi family but many people in Beijing knew this. Yi Beirong coughed and said, although Yemo isn't a part of the Yi family now, some things are hard to judge. For example, the DNA test was erroneous or some other misunderstandings may have occurred. Right now, we shouldn't conclude this. After all, Yemo also stayed in the Yi family. After being kicked out and hunted, the most extreme we should go to is not care. If we are to follow and hunt him too, then our Yi family would seem too shabby. Yi Beirong paused and looked at everyone before continuing. So, there's no need for us to help Nanqing hunt Yemo to further undermine our reputation. Our family isn't sustained using this relationship. And Nanqing attacked our business. No matter what, we are going to make them pay. We need to let them remember that the Yi family fears no one, even Nanqing. Yilong, immediately go investigate what Yemo had done recently and report to me. Hearing the leader's words, Yi Wenjin seemed hesitant. Speak if you have something to say. Yi Beirong saw Yi Wenjin's hesitation. Father, if we search for news of Yemo, aren't we telling Nanqing that Yemo is really important to us? In that case, aren't we exacerbating our problems with Nanqing? Yi Wenjin asked. Yi Beirong sneered. I really feel ashamed for all of you. Is our family supposed to fear a gang organization? If we can't even fend off Nanqing, then there's no point to our existence. Plus, even if Nanqing doesn't look for our trouble, are we to let them go? Although his voice was no longer young, his attitude was extremely firm. After all, Dongfang Shi wasn't a god. He was already sure that 99% of the people in the Yi family would agree to hunt Yemo, but he didn't calculate that 1%. Sometimes, not much people was needed to make the deciding call. Regardless, Nanqing couldn't even help themselves now, much less have time for Yi family's business. When Yemo returned to Luozong and took his things, he took another $20,000 and addressed Lu Xiaozhu and Yu Eru on the online clinic before leaving for Beijing. Although he killed Qian Longtu this time and could take the money there, Yemo didn't. First, he wasn't short on money, and another was that Yemo would get Lang Ji to find spirit herbs for him. That would cost a lot, so he didn't take any money from Nanqing. What? You're saying that Yemo dares to just waltz into Beijing? Song Qiming received Song Hai's report and almost couldn't believe it. Did Yemo want to die? But he hesitated for a moment before recovering his composure and immediately said, send a few people and bring him here. Nanqing is really useless. Still can't even deal with a little Yemo. Leader. Song Huan hesitated and seemed to have something to say. Song Qiming knew that Song Hai was very reliable and therefore gave him this important mission to him. If it was Song Hai's words, he would still think about it. Seeing Song Hai act like this, he knew there was something Song Hai wanted to say, so he immediately said, if there's something, just tell me. There's no other people here. Song Hai immediately said, I don't think it's the right time to abduct Yemo now. Seeing Song Qiming's confused eyes, Song Hai said, a few days ago, Yemo took the plane from Mang River to Sri Lanka, and 3 days ago he just returned from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has a line that goes straight to Sai Na Peninsula, so I think Yemo has been to Sai Na Peninsula. Hearing Song Hai's words, Song Qiming dazed and subconsciously answered, Yemo went to Sai Na Peninsula? Then how does he have the life to come back? He killed Qian Longtu's son. Would Qian Longtu let him go? Song Hai sighed. Leader, that's the problem. There's no way Qian Longtu would let Yemo go. But Yemo returned unharmed. This is the problem. I don't know what's up, but other than Yemo killing Qian Longtu or Qian Longtu unable to do anything to Yemo, I really can't think of another reason. Hearing Song Hai's words, Song Qiming's eyes frowned more. If Song Hai's words were true, then Yemo was too powerful. He remembered the time when Yemo was cultivating at Ninghai and said, Is Emo really a student of ancient martial arts? He thought before continuing. If he isn't, then how can he go there and retreat? If he is, then things are tricky. Songhai sighed and said, Leader, don't worry. Emo just went to Sri Lanka. We don't know if he went to Sinai. And even if he is a student of ancient martial arts, he wouldn't be from the hidden sects if he could stay so long in the normal world. At most, he's a desolate ancient martial artist's disciple. I've already sent people to investigate Sinai, so there should be some news today. Song Chiming nodded and still didn't talk when Songhai's phone rang. Song Chiming signaled for Songhai to pick it up. Songhai picked up and his face grew worse by the moment. What's wrong? Song Chiming saw Songhai's face change and felt things weren't good. Songhai took a deep breath and said, I just received news. Something happened to Nanqing. Sinai is now shut down. According to the news, it is because Chen Longtu died. Now, Lang Ji and the hierarchy of Nanqing are fighting for power. It's said to be very messy. What? Chen Longtu died? Song Chiming was shocked. Who was Chen Longtu? Someone who escaped with ease after so many years of the government hunting him. He rampaged in America and Europe and even established a gang base in Africa. Someone like this would die so easily? Song Chiming wouldn't believe it. Song Chiming suddenly thought of a problem. Songhai said that Emo could have gone to Sinai Peninsula, and then he immediately heard news of Chen Longtu dying. Songhai also thought of this. The two looked at each other and said Emo at the same time. Song Chiming suddenly shivered. If Emo could really kill Chen Longtu amongst thousands of people, then killing people from the Song family would be all too easy. No wonder he just waltzed into Beijing. It seemed that he didn't even care about the Song family. He was someone so terrifying. Then who was his master? Who taught such a monster? Song Chiming suddenly remembered Song Shaoan driving off the cliff in the middle of the night. Things were too strange. Song Chiming finally calmed down after a while and said, Immediately hold a family meeting. Tell everyone in the family to not to get into conflict with Emo. And immediately investigate what Emo had been doing recently. Immediately. Then, Song Chiming said to Songhai, Did you tell Hucho's master about what happened to him? Songhai immediately said, Hucho's master is on holiday and we can't contact him yet. Once he comes back, I will immediately tell him about Hucho. Song Chiming nodded. Immediately go hold the family meeting. As soon as Emo got off the plane and went into the tunnel, he saw that the airport outside was full of people. These people had small signs saying, I love Tanfei, or Welcome Tanfei. It seemed some pop star or celebrity was coming to Beijing. Judging by the looks of it, she had quite a lot of fans. Excuse me. The youth behind Emo thought Emo was walking too slow. Tanfei, don't worry, we're already at Beijing. Are we that short on time? Plus, this place is indeed narrow. A crisp voice interrupted Tanfei. That youth didn't rebuke and said, Okay, Sister Fei. It's just that there are a lot of fans outside. I'm afraid that there'll be a ruckus. It's better to go somewhere more spacious later. As soon as the youth said this, Emo knew that the person behind should be Tanfei. Emo didn't intentionally block her way. After all, there was a lot of people. Even if he moved aside, there would still be people blocking in front. However, as soon as they got out of the tunnel, Emo moved to the side. This Tanfei had a few big luggage cases, it would be better to let her go first. After all, he was empty-handed. Seeing Emo move to the side as soon as they got out of the tunnel, Tanfei politely said, Thank you. Emo shook his head. He didn't think that was necessary. But this tunnel was indeed narrow. There was a lot of people here today. It seemed that a lot of flights were coming at the same time, and the inspection ahead was slow. He wondered if something happened today. Even after moving aside, Tanfei and the youth only moved a bit further and stopped. Thank you for before. This is my new album with my signature. My newest one, it's for you. Tanfei's voice was very crisp, but she made a living out of it. Now, because of the security ahead, they stopped for now, so Tanfei took it out for Emo. She saw Emo dressed ordinarily and let her move ahead and believed him to be her fan. Plus, she felt that this person was very calm, so she gave her album as thanks. A lot of people looked at Emo in admiration. They all knew Tan Fei, but they needed to keep their composure, so they didn't rush up for signature. However, none of them expected that Tan Fei would give one album to Emo. Emo looked at the album and waved his helplessly hand. Sorry, I don't have a place to put it, and I don't like listening to music. It would be a waste giving it to me. Although he rejected the gift, Tan Fei gave him a good impression. This woman was indeed pretty. She had thick long eyebrows. Although she wasn't as good-looking as Ning Qingxue, her faint makeup did give her a unique taste. Hearing Emo's words, Tan Fei awkwardly took her hands back. She didn't think that someone would reject an album she gave and would speak in front of her that he didn't like songs. That was unimaginable. Not only was Tan Fei shocked, but so was everyone around. Even if one didn't like songs, one should show some manners at least. Even if he would throw it away later, he should still take it. It was too impolite to reject a star like that. That youth who told Emo to move glared at Emo. Emo smiled and didn't care. However, Tan Fei quickly returned her composure and apologetically said, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you didn't like songs. I thought you heard of my name. Then, she playfully said, it seems I'm not famous enough, haha. Then, she didn't pay more attention to Emo. Emo smiled and didn't reply. Hey friend, that was Tan Fei. Why didn't you take it? She signed it and gave it to you herself, yet you didn't want it. Don't tell me you haven't heard of Tan Fei? The youth behind Emo saw Tan Fei turn around and immediately spoke to Emo. Emo speechlessly asked, why must I have heard of her? The youth was at a loss for words. Yeah, why did he have to know her? Tan Fei obviously heard Emo's words as the corner of her mouth spasmed. But she eventually didn't say anything. She must have felt quite intrigued. She was the most famous star in China and Hong Kong. But someone said in her face that he didn't know her. If Emo was a 60-years-old man, it would be fair enough. However, he was a youth in his 20s. She really felt weird, but luckily the tunnel was unblocked now. She carried a small case and walked out with her assistant. Seeing the fans outside, she finally found some confidence back. Emo wasn't someone who liked to spend money and was even very conservative. But for places that he should spend money on, he wasn't stingy. Although there were a lot of high-star hotels in Beijing, the prices were too high. He only had $20,000 and that wasn't enough for 2 nights. So, the first thing Emo did after getting off the plane wasn't to find a place to live but to buy a phone. It was too inconvenient to call Li Hu using public payphones, plus a phone didn't cost that much. He didn't buy it before because he didn't need it, but now that he did, he would go buy one. Emo didn't have much requirements for a phone. As long as it could be used to call, he didn't mind if it had other functions. But when he walked into a phone shop, he was dazzled by the variety of phones. He really didn't want to spend time picking a phone or brand. Handsome, what phone do you want? Emo looked around, and just when he didn't know what to do, the counter girl greeted him. Emo looked at this sweet-looking girl and thought these business people really knew how to talk. No matter how the person looked, the male would be handsome, and the female would be beautiful. Help me get a phone. As soon as Emo spoke, he found that not only the girl held her mouth with her hand, but even the people on the side looked at him in surprise. Some of them wanted to laugh. But the counter girl immediately resisted and asked, what brand do you want? What style? Emo knew what they were laughing about, but he didn't know a thing about phones and could only say, I don't have a requirement for brand. As long as it can call clearly, then it would be fine. It was a hillbilly the people around understood. This ordinary-looking youth was a hillbilly. People who bought phones now cared least about calling capabilities. People sought after high pixels, internet speed, and looks. Hearing Emo's words, the girl no longer had her previous enthusiasm. Any phone could call. There were ones for $200 or $300, but she wouldn't be able to earn off that. Emo knew what she was thinking just by looking at her but didn't care. Who didn't want to earn money? However, Emo didn't notice that someone at the corner of the shop stared at him for a while before mumbling, it's Emo. He came to Beijing. Then, the person ran out of the shop quickly. The girl took an old-styled Nokia from behind the counter and said to Emo, this Nokia is quite clear for calls and it's cheap. It's just that the appearance and other functions are a bit worse off. This one is $550. Although there were 2 to 300s, but the girl still wanted to earn some money. She would see if Emo would take it. If he thought that was expensive, she would lower the price. Emo nodded, took out $1,000 and presented it to the girl. I'll have this one. Use the rest to get a card for me and charge it up. The girl couldn't react for a long time. She didn't expect this young man to have some money. If she knew this, she would have gave him a more expensive model. Thinking about this, the girl quickly said, "Sir, there are better phones, do you want?" Before she could say more, Emo interrupted and said, "Hurry up and do it. I'm busy." "Stop, don't leave." A voice beside Emo called out. Emo turned around and saw a shop personnel pulling a youth in his 20s. The youth had a face full of worry with one hand holding a water bottle. Emo phased because he knew this youth. When he was at Flowing Snake, he saw this youth behind Fong Nan. He should be Fong Nan's lackey. So why did he appear at Beijing's shop? Brother Yi. This youth obviously knew Emo and stopped struggling. Emo walked over and looked at the personnel. What's going on? Although Emo didn't wear famous brands, he had his temperament. The personnel saw that the youth knew Emo, so he let the youth go and pointed at him. "He broke our TV and I'm making him pay. He says he didn't do it." The youth didn't rebuke. Just then, he poured his water into the TV, and the TV got short-circuited. "I saw it with my own eyes," the worker immediately said. Emo looked at the youth's pale face and knew the worker was telling the truth. He didn't know what the youth was doing in Beijing, but if he was doing errands for Fong Nan, then he didn't mind helping him solve the problem. After all, Fong Nan also helped Ning Qingxue last time. "What are you doing here?" Emo asked. The youth showed hesitance and looked around as though saying this wasn't the place to talk. Emo looked at the worker and said, "How much is the TV? I'll pay you. $5.3K. The worker pointed at the sign. Emo didn't even bother to argue and just gave the worker $5,300 and took the phone. He didn't even take the receipt and said to the youth, "Let's go." He took the youth to a fast food restaurant and ordered 2 coffees as he signaled the youth to sit down. He didn't know the youth's name. The youth seemed to know this and said as soon as he sat down, "Brother Yi, I'm Xiaohua. I've been following Brother Nan, you should have seen me." Emo saw this Xiaohua was over 20 and couldn't understand why he did something so immature. "What's going on? Did Fong Nan send you?" Emo asked. He saw that Xiaohua hadn't washed his clothes for a long time. It seemed that he didn't have a good time in Beijing. Xiaohua's eyes were red and said, "I wasn't sent by Brother Nan. Brother Nan was almost killed and his legs are injured. He can't get up. He's no longer in Flowing Snake but hiding in a small town at the border of Vietnam. I snuck to Beijing. I brought something to Beijing to sell, but I was caught and lost everything. The person who took my things seemed to want to keep it for himself and didn't investigate my origins and just let me go." Emo understood why Xiaohua was so worried when he was caught by the shop worker. If the police came and his origins were investigated, then he would probably go to jail. Who would have a clean record coming from Flowing Snake? But Fong Nan almost being killed and getting kicked out of Flowing Snake took Emo by surprise. He had already paved the way in Flowing Snake, and there were basically no strong power factions. Why would Fong Nan still be kicked out? And last time, when Ning Qingxue went to Flowing Snake, he still seemed to be the big boss in Flowing Snake. Seeing Emo's confused expression, Xiaohua hurried and said, "Last time when your wife went to Flowing Snake, Brother Nan had a conflict due to her things and broke Shiwei's legs and kicked him out of Flowing Snake. Brother Nan thought that although Shiwei was from the amphibious gang, he only needed to pay some money. But this Shiwei was influential and made the amphibious gang annihilate our Pudao gang. Brother Nan was almost killed. We lost a lot of brothers in that battle. Brother Nan was heavily injured and taken out of Flowing Snake by us. Now we're hiding in a small town by the border. Because we didn't have much money and didn't dare to do any business. I brought something to Beijing to sell, but my thing was confiscated and I was almost caught." Emo curiously asked, "Why do you have to come to Beijing to sell? And why did you look for trouble in the shop?" Xiaohua looked down for a while before saying, "Because I didn't have money and felt depressed. I've been wandering around the shop. But the TV was talking about amphibians. I hate the word amphibians. I saw there was no one on the side, so I tipped the water into the TV, but I was still seen. Emo was speechless. This Xiaohua was indeed from Flowing Snake. He could find such an absurd reason. However, since Fong Nan helped Ning Qingxue and was almost killed due to her, Emo had to help him no matter what. He just didn't know where this amphibious gang popped out from. But since he wasn't even afraid of Nanqing, he wouldn't be afraid of this amphibious gang. Thinking about this, he gave $1.0K to Xiaohua and said, "Go back first. Tell Fong Nan to heal up. This thing started because of me, so I will go back and avenge him. When I'm done with the things in Beijing, I will go there." Xiaohua stood up in joy. If Emo said he was going to help, then things would be all good. Although he wanted to reject the $10,000, but he really didn't have any money, so he could only take it. Emo sent Xiaohua away and walked out of the shop and just realized the sky was dark. He only had a few $1,000s on him now, but he didn't mind because he was soon going to take back the $500,000 of debt. However, he didn't expect Fong Nan to be kicked out by the amphibious gang. This gang seemed quite big. He shook his head and took out the phone. He wanted to call Li Hu. Li Hu's phone was off. Emo didn't know if he came back from the desert or went on another mission. Emo could only get out the phone and call Zhua Aigua, but he couldn't reach through as well. Luckily, Emo knew where Zhua Aigua lived and called a taxi to there. As soon as Emo reached that small region, Zhua Aigua's phone called back. When he heard it was Emo calling, he was excited. However, he wasn't in Beijing now and took his son and wife to America. He promised Emo that he would be able to come back tomorrow. Emo hung up the phone in disappointment. It seemed that he should have called them before he came. Li Hu could just transfer the money, but how was he going to treat Zhua Aigua's son if he didn't see him? Since Zhua Aigua could only come back tomorrow, Emo could only find a place to live first for the night. At the same time, Emo wondered if he should go see Yi Zifeng. A few people looking like students walked over, and Emo didn't notice them. He walked up to a vending machine and wanted to buy a bottle of water. He felt his pocket and realized he had no coins. This machine seemed to only take coins. Emo could only shake his head and go to a nearby supermarket. But at this moment, an arm blocked Emo's way. Emo reacted and grabbed that wrist. But before he used much force, the owner of the wrist yelled out. The students surrounded him immediately. Emo calmed down and noticed that the one stopping him was a girl, so he quickly let go her. He looked closely at the girl only to realize that he had actually seen her before. "Hey, what the hell? I just wanted to ask you something." The girl had tears circulating in her eyes and was obviously not happy with Emo's reaction. The few male students had come up, and by the looks of it, if Emo said anything wrong, they would attack him immediately. Emo smiled and said, "You're asking the wrong person. I just came to Beijing." The girl rubbed her wrist before looking at Emo again and saying, "I've definitely seen you before. Your eyes are too familiar. Your eyes are very beautiful. It's definitely you, right?" Emo was speechless. The girl's friends were also speechless. She's been rambling for so long but still didn't say who Emo was. However, she kept talking about his eye. However, Emo knew that this girl recognized him. He didn't think he would still be recognized even when he wore a face mask. This girl was the Qing heir he met at Likang Hospital. She and her grandpa came to the hospital, and her grandpa was poisoned by purple coral. However, Emo just saved his life for 3 years and didn't cure it completely. "Yang Qing, are you infatuated? What eyes? Do you think this is a drama?" A girl beside Zhua Yangqing said. Zhua Yangqing was already sure that this young man was the person who cured her grandpa at the hospital and even took her $50,000. It has been a year, and according to what Emo said, her grandpa only had 3 years to live. She dreamed day and night to see Emo again. She had been to Ninghai and Likang countless times. She even got to know everyone who worked there but still couldn't find Emo. It was because before, Emo had a face mask, so his eyes were set in more and more in Zhua Yangqing's head. She would even dream of that bright pair of eyes. She was confident that as soon as he saw those eyes, she would be able to recognize him. And she really did see him today. Zhua Yangqing was clueless in her speech and grabbed Emo's sleeve. She was afraid Emo would suddenly disappear again. She desperately asked, "Tell me, are you the doctor who helped me grandpa at Likang Hospital?" Emo nodded helplessly and said, "Yes. I believe you grandpa is fine, right?" Emo was quite confident in his medical skills. He did not believe that something happened to the girl's grandpa in less than 3 years. No, my grandpa is fine. I've been looking for you at Ning Hai countless times and I actually found you. I'm so happy, so happy. Shui Yangqing's expression was getting chaotic. In her heart, if she found Emo, then it meant her grandpa would be saved. "Then can you let go first?" Emo looked speechlessly at Shui Yangqing. "Oh, okay. Okay." Shui Yangqing still nervously stared at Emo after letting go. She was scared that Emo would disappear as soon as she didn't pay attention. "Yangqing, do you still want me to go to live with you at your third uncle's house? If not, I'm going back to school with Wang Fei and them." A short girl reminded Shui Yangqing. Shui Yangqing had calmed down now and quickly said, "No need, thank you, Fong Fong. I have things to do now." "Okay, let's go." Those youth looked at Emo a few times and bid Yangqing farewell. Emo knew this girl wanted him to go cure her grandpa's disease, and he was third-stage qi gathering now, so it was very easy to cure her grandpa. "Hello, doctor. I'm Shui Yangqing. You should know why I wanted to find you so desperately. After you treated my grandpa last time, my grandpa had been well and is still very healthy. My whole family is looking for you, but we couldn't find you. Now that I met you, this is really luck amongst luck." Although Shui Yangqing had calmed down, she was still excited. Emo estimated that it was 6 to 7 p.m. now, and he didn't have any medical equipment. He originally planned to go buy it after getting the money from Li Hu, but he couldn't reach him. Seeing Emo didn't talk, Shui Yangqing worriedly said, "Doctor, this time, my aunties are all at home, so you can have as much money as you want, as long as you cure my grandpa." In Shui Yangqing's eyes, Emo was a doctor who only looked at money. In other words, he had no medical ethics. He would cure as long as there was money. Emo smiled and didn't argue. Before, he asked for money so vigorously because he really had nothing on him and he needed money desperately for cultivation. Now, he wasn't so worried, but it was natural to be paid for treating diseases. If he was going to help the girl's grandpa, of course he would charge money. "Okay. Give me your number. After I'm done with my errands tomorrow, I'll call you. I'm busy today." Emo had decided to go visit Yi Zifeng. After all, when he was at school, Wang Ying gave him quite a lot of help. Not that he thought about it, Wang Ying probably helped him due to Yi Zifeng. Indeed, the only person who didn't hate him in the Yi family was Yi Zifeng. What if you disappear again? Then I would regret it my whole life." "I don't know what your name is," Shui Yangqing subconsciously said. Emo frowned. "I'm busy now, are you going to follow me?" Shui Yangqing fearfully looked at Emo. She was scared that Emo was just going to leave, and she would never find him again. Seeing that Emo was about to turn and leave, she quickly said once again, "Didn't you say you just got to Beijing? I'm familiar with the place, so I can take you wherever you want to go." Then, Shui Yangqing seemed to feel this was a good idea and said, "Yes, I'll be your guide." Emo thought that he indeed wasn't familiar with Beijing and didn't even know where the Yi family was. Shui Yangqing's suggestion was good. Thinking about this, Emo nodded and said, "Okay. Do you know how to get to the Yi family? I'm looking for Yi Zifeng. If you don't know it, then don't worry." "Yi Zifeng. I've heard of him, but I only know where his sister is," Shui Yangqing immediately said. "Yi Zifeng's sister, wasn't she Yi Ling?" She was his sister too, although her attitude to him was bad. But Wang Ying helped him due to her. If he could find Yi Ling, he could be able to see Yi Zifeng. Although Emo didn't know the exact reason he was kicked out of the Yi family. If he could be framed, so could Yi Zifeng. If Yi Zifeng needed his help, he could bring him to Luotsong and learn medicine with him. "You know Yi Ling?" Emo casually asked. Shui Yangqing immediately said, "You know her name, so that means you really know her. Yi Ling is the school queen of our uni." "Of course I know her. She didn't say she was one of the school queens and was ranked higher." Emo nodded. "Okay. Then take me to your uni and find Yi Ling." Emo thought that if could find Yiling, he could find Yi Zifeng. Xianxia didn't mind and said, "Okay, let's go. I'll take you to her. By the way, I don't know your name yet. I'm Emo." After Emo said that, he realized Xianxia stared at him for a long time, and then she looked at Emo's underpart. Emo couldn't help but touch his nose and feel speechless. Xianxia's cute and innocent impression in his mind was lost. The girls nowadays were really bold. Obviously, Xianxia also heard of Emo's name and knew he was impotent, but probably no one knew that ever since Emo came back from the desert, he was no longer impotent. His meridian was cleared as soon as he reached stage 3. Now he was strong as ever. Xianxia seemed to notice her impoliteness and quickly looked up with a blushed face. "Sorry, Brother Yi, I was being impolite." Xianxia realized after her explanation that she shouldn't have explained anything. Emo shook his head and said, "Don't talk these nonsense. Hurry up and take me to Yiling." Hua University wasn't far from where Zhua Igua lived and was only a few minutes' walk away. Although Xianxia looked calm when she was walking with Emo, she wasn't calm on the inside at all. Almost everyone knew about Emo in Beijing. Even the normal citizens heard about Emo due to that reason and realization that he wasn't of Yi family blood. He was kicked out of the Yi family and was the laughingstock of the people for a while. Even Xianxia and her roommates would often talk about it. Although she didn't say it, her dorm mates often talked about it. Every time she heard about it, she wanted to laugh. But she realized that the person she wanted to find was Emo and almost couldn't believe herself. At this moment, she almost thought she was looking for the wrong person and subconsciously looked at Emo's crotch. Luckily, Emo didn't mind, but she immediately felt it wasn't right. This Emo had no similarity to the Emo in the stories. The Emo in front of her not only had clear eyes, his manner was also generous and very at ease. The features of his face was defined. He was nothing like the stories. With his medical skills, he was almost the perfect man. He just asked for money too much, and this was the only similar part. After all, Xianxia came from a big family and immediately thought of the family competition. It seemed that all those stories were fake. The main reason was to kick Emo out of the Yi family. Thinking about this, Xianxia suddenly came to a realization and almost looked at Emo's crotch again. But luckily she resisted that urge. It should be family competition. Emo was a sacrificial goat kicked out of the Yi family due to the competition. It seemed that every big family was the same. "Brother Yi, you still haven't eaten yet. There's a canteen in our school where you can cook. I'll cook a few dishes and we can eat together." Emo looked at the door of the university. Indeed, he hadn't eaten yet. Just when he wanted to agree, a voice called out before him. "Yangqing, I was going to call you. You actually came to uni." "Who is he?" The owner of the voice saw Emo on the side. This was a tall, handsome man. But he looked at Emo with alert eyes as though feeling Emo was a threat. Xianxia looked awkwardly at Emo on the side and turned to say, "Qin Sun, what do you want?" Qin Sun seemed to forget what he was going to say and stared at them in shock. Hearing Xianxia's words, he reacted and immediately said, "Yangqing, you still haven't said who he is?" Xianxia's face turned red and replied, "Qin Sun, who do you think you are to me? Why do I need to report to you about my friend? You are my girlfriend." Qin Sun never would have thought Xianxia would talk to him in such a manner and subconsciously said, "You, Qin Sun, when did I say I was your girlfriend? Where did you hear that?" Xianxia seemed to be angered by his words. Qin Su had been chasing her fiercely recently. She also had a good impression of him, but although she was interested, she never agreed to be his girlfriend. Although she knew that if this continued, then perhaps one day, she would be his girlfriend. But now that he said it, she was very angry. Qin Sun seemed to not expect Xianxia would say this. Although they haven't had any solid development, she would rarely reject when he asked her out for food or a walk. Now, she brought a guy into the school and talked to her in this tone. Qin Sun was very sensitive to this, and his face was immediately bright red. Looking at Qin Sun, who acted like an angry rooster, Xianxia sighed and lost all good impression of him. "Xianxia, you, then why do you not reject every time I asked you out? And Qin Sun's words attracted the gaze of the other students. Xianxia's face was flustered. She didn't think Qin Sun was someone so impetuous. Looking at how more and more people were spectating, Xianxia said apologetically to Yimo, "Brother Yi, wait for me a bit. I'll deal with this issue." She didn't wait for Yimo's reply and said to Qin Sun, come with me. Yimo smiled. He found that most of the students spent their time on this. He thought about himself. He was about the same age as him, but he didn't even have enough time for cultivation. Perhaps different pursuit led to a different view on life. He didn't have the same pursuit as them. He thought about his pursuit and thought that perhaps he was the only one who had this pursuit in this world. At this instance, Yimo felt loneliness. Xianxia worriedly looked back at Yimo and found that Yimo was still there waiting for her. Then, she gasped a sigh of relief, but she immediately felt this extremely lonely and bored sense from Yimo that made her lose herself for a moment. Seeing Xianxia still look back after leaving with him, Qin Sun's face got worse. Although Yimo was very famous in Beijing, no one could really recognize him standing at the door of the uni. A high-heeled girl walked from the campus to a Porsche parked outside the gate. Just when she walked to it, a young man got off and helped her open the door. The moment the girl walked into the car, Yimo felt this girl was familiar. The car picking up Yiling today changed again. "It's really good to be rich." A voice sounded beside Yimo, and Yimo immediately realized that this girl was Yiling. At this moment, the Porsche had started. Yimo followed it without hesitation. The Porsche didn't go far off and stopped at an entertainment center 10 minutes later. Yimo frowned. Why did Yiling come there? Although Yimo didn't like Yiling that much, Yiling was still related to him by blood and he felt uncomfortable seeing her come here. He felt that a girl going to this sort of place didn't know self-love. Yimo followed but saw that people needed VIP cards at the door. Yimo knew he didn't have this. Seeing Yiling disappear in the stairway, Yimo used invisibility and went inside. Yiling and two men went into room 409 and the door was immediately closed. Yimo didn't go in and just followed with his spirit sense. There was already two men inside. Seeing Yiling come in, the man in the middle threw his cigarette into the ashtray and smiled. He is really gorgeous. Yiling sat down and looked at the man who spoke. She spoke after a while. Speak. What do you want this time? The man lit up another cigarette and said slowly, First, stay with me one night, and of course you also need to stay with Brother Chung one night. Second, there's a jade necklace in your house. I want. Before the man finished talking, Yiling stood up and said, Keep dreaming, and she turned to leave. The man didn't stop her seeing her get up to leave and just said, You know that the Yi family hopes your two brothers to die. Do you think there's a point going back to tell your family? I Gu Luo am credible in my business. I'll tell you that if it wasn't for me, then that Yimo would have been killed ages ago. If you don't agree to my conditions, then that Yi Zifeng will be killed too. Oh, perhaps not killed, but that consequence, I believe you would understand. Bullshit. Even if I die, I won't agree to your conditions. Yiling's face was looked bad. Clap clap. Okay. Not bad. I love a little chili like you. Yimo, that bastard, killed people from the Song family. So I'll make his little sister pay under my crotch. Haha. Young Master Chung, you're here? Gu Luo saw the clapping youth and immediately stood up as though not expecting he would suddenly appear. Song Xiaoqing, it's you. Yiling saw the person who just walked in was Song Xiaoqing and was shocked. She didn't think that Gu Luo she went for help with was related to the Song family. But soon, Yiling quickly reacted and stared at Gu Luo with hatred. Gu Luo, you knew Yi Lu? How are you the Song family's man? You cheated me and Yi Lu. Gu Luo laughed and said, Yi Lu humph. You overestimate him. Is he worth me cheating? He's quick to suck up to me. I'll tell you, I've always been young Master Chen's men. Yi Lu of course knew it. Yimo, that useless trash, is not worth us killing. But of course, when I was going to make a move, he had ran, otherwise, did you still think there would still be a Yimo in this world? You took so much of my money and made me do so much for you guys. How dare you lie to me? Gu Luo, you animal. Yiling's face was pale with anger. At this moment, she realized how immature she was. She originally wanted to save the lives of her two brothers in secret, but didn't expect things to progress like this. Moreover, she pretended her relationship with her two brothers were very bad, even to the degree of not talking to them. She was scared that her big uncle and fourth uncle would discover that she sided towards her two brothers, disabling her from entering the Yi family house anymore. If she couldn't, then the three brothers and sisters would completely become irrelevant people and disappear in the Yi family. She never even dared to bring up about Emo in front of her grandpa or even help him say anything, because she understood that although her grandpa liked her, it was because he liked her father. But grandpa hated the most when women talked about familial matters. That time, her second mum was forced to go do business in a faraway place by her grandpa because she was involved in her second uncle's matters. She even had to change her surname to the surname of her grandma. Ever since that, no woman in the Yi family dared to talk about family matters. Even if they didn't dare to let grandpa know. In fact, she didn't know that under the permission of her grandpa, her brother Yi Zifeng could participate in the family meetings. Gu Luo was introduced to her by Yi Lu. Yi Lu was a part of the Yi family, and Yi Ling thought he wouldn't harm her. But she didn't expect that Yi Lu not only harmed her but also dared to harm the Yi family. She didn't know why Yi Lu would do this. Was he not scared of the family law? Thinking about the family law, Yi Ling shivered. She was clear that the things she did was no lighter than what Yi Lu did, perhaps even worse. Just her stealing the Feng Shui Dragon Ball would cause her to descend to hell if her grandpa knew. Yi Lu must be the same as her. He had things that Song Xiaoqian could blackmail him with. However, she was willing. She didn't know if Yi Lu was the same. Yeah, you collected so much things about the Yi family and told me you even stole 2 of the Feng Shui Dragon Balls and gave it to me. The Song family really should thank you. However, that old man really trusts you. Even Yi Lu couldn't enter the main house, but you can go in, Song Xiaoqian sarcastically said. Looking at Yi Ling's pale face, Song Xiaoqian slowly said, "If you can bring me the Jade Buddha between the Feng Shui Dragon Ball and stay with me one night, then I'll pretend nothing happened and won't harm a finger of Yi Zifeng. If you disagree, then we have so many brothers here. I don't think you can take it all by yourself." Of course, even if you serve us, you stealing the Feng Shui Dragon Ball would still accidentally reach Yi Beirong's ear. Yi Ling was shaking with anger. She only knew how stupid she was now. The more worried she was, the more clueless she was. She paid a big price for Gu Luo to secretly protect Emo and Yi Zifeng, and even searched news of Song family trying to deal with Emo. Now, it seemed all like a big joke. It would be fortunate if they didn't harm them, much less protect them. After experiencing these things, Yi Ling understood a lot, but she knew she understood too late. "Let me go and I'll steal the Jade Buddha." Yi Ling recovered her composure. Although her body was still shaking, at least she calmed down on the surface. "Ha ha ha!" Song Xiaoqian hysterically laughed. "Do you think I have the same IQ as you? Of course I'll let you go. But we need to do our business first and get the recordings done. I believe you can leave then. But don't worry, we won't touch that Emo. We'll only touch that Yi Zifeng. If you cooperate, perhaps we won't even touch Yi Zifeng." "Humph, rip off her clothes?" Song Xiaoqian feared the most when other people said Emo could kill him. Many people knew Song Xiaoan died by Yemo's hand, and so did Song Xiaotan. Plus, the family meeting today and the order of the leader said no one should find trouble with Emo. Although Song Xiaoqian didn't know what happened, he knew that if Emo really killed him, he would die in vain. His life in the Song family wasn't even worth 1% of Song Xiaotan, much less Song Xiaoan. The leader could let Emo go after he killed them, much less him, Song Xiaoqian. "Who dares to rip her clothes?" A cold voice suddenly echoed in the room. The people in the room didn't even see how the door was unlocked. The first to react wasn't Song Xiaoqian and his men, but Yi Ling saw the young man standing at the door and was shocked. Although Emo changed a lot, she still recognized it was him after a while. "Emo," Yi Ling blandly said in shock. Emo nodded. "Yi Ling, it was hard on you. You're right, if I can kill Song Xiaoan, I can also kill Song Xiaoqian. Oh, you probably don't know that I also killed Song Xiaotan." "You really are Emo?" In Yi Ling's impression, Yimo was a useless rich second generation and was extremely pretentious. The reason she could treat Yimo the same as Yi Zifeng was because her father's words before he died. She still remembered them till now. Ling Yimo is not welcomed, and he doesn't like studying himself. You and Zifeng need to look out for him. Don't let him be bullied. I'm guilty to him and his mother. Don't let me die in unrest. Yiling remembered she cried as she agreed to her father's words. Then her father slowly closed his eyes. But because of this Yimo, she suffered a lot. After his father died, he extravagantly spent money. It was all the money she saved up in hardship for him. The reason he could still stay in Ning High University was because of the countless people she begged. Even when he was kicked out of the Yi family, Yiling's big uncle was still going to attack him. As such, she intentionally got close with her big uncle's side while intentionally distancing Yimo and Yi Zifeng. Yimo wasn't close with her to begin with, but she intentionally distanced herself with Yi Zifeng. That was so that when her big uncle attacked them, he could have some hesitation or perhaps could let her get some news. Not only this, she also sucked up to Yi Lu and knew the underground gangster Gu Luo through him. Gu Luo said he had connections in Ninghai as well, so she paid money to Gu Luo to protect Yimo because she was scared her big uncle and fourth uncle would still attack Yimo. Although she didn't know anything, but she heard that there was an instance when her grandpa got drunk and said on the table that her father was to be the next leader of the family and was prepared to give ownership of the assets to father. Then, her father's health grew worse, and his grandpa no longer mentioned it again. Yiling even suspected that her father's death was related to her big uncle, but she didn't dare to say and could only do her best to protect her two brothers. She tried to not take money from the family, and more than once reminded her brother not to take money from the family to avoid the killing intent of her big uncle. And when she saw Yimo today, she had the urge to cry. She felt wronged. Yi Zifeng and Yimo were both her elder brothers. But she, being the youngest of them all, had to do these things. And Yimo even lived a life that no one knew what he was doing behind everyone's back. I am Yimo. Seeing Yiling's eyes red, Yimo just told Yiling he was Yimo and didn't talk. He just stared coldly at Song Xiaochen. You are Yimo. Song Xiaochen said this word by word. Gu Luo had already stood beside Song Xiaochen. If someone else suddenly entered the room, they would have already gone up and beat them up. However, they've also heard about Yimo. It was said that even Hu Qiu died in his hands. Also, Gu Luo wasn't bad, but he was a far cry from Hu Qiu. The two men beside Gu Luo wanted to abduct Yiling. Yiling was still looking at Yimo as if in disbelief of Yimo's change. This Yimo in front of her was too different from the Yimo in her memories. The Yimo in her memories would only make her feel annoyed and disgust. She didn't want to see him at all. But the Yimo in front of her emitted great confidence. Just standing there made people feel as if he was the only person in the room that could decide on things. Moreover, as soon as Yimo came, Song Xiaochen immediately became silent. His face was even showing expressions of worry. Yiling suddenly felt a strong sense of safety. It was as though only Yimo like this was her real big brother. She subconsciously wanted to walk towards Yimo when two frosty winds shot past her face. Yiling subconsciously looked back and the two men behind her had fallen down. She thought her courage was pretty bold before, but now that she saw two men fall down in front of her with blood seeping out of their foreheads, she wanted to scream and dash into Yimo's arms without thinking. Yimo patted the shaking Yiling and sighed. Life was really hard on her. She was really scared but still gritted her teeth and dealt with people like Gu Luo. In fact, no matter what deal she made, she couldn't escape her eventual death. Even if Gu Luo wasn't Song Xiaochen's man, he would still kill Yiling eventually to keep her mouth shut and prevent revenge by the Yi family. Other than Gu Luo's side, Yiling would still die if the Yi family knew what Yiling did. Yimo, I know you're really powerful. If you just let me go, I'm willing to give back the Dragon Balls and other things. Song Xiaochen seemed to be reminding himself that Yimo didn't dare to kill him now, and he needed to stay calm. But when the words got to his mouth, he was already shaking.